The rain in Seoul's Guro district smelled like rust and regret. I pressed my forehead against the convenience store window, watching expensive sedans glide past while my stomach tried to eat itself from the inside out. 3 days since my last real meal. 4 since I had slept somewhere that wasn't a subway station bench. My reflection stared back, hollow cheeks, rain-soaked hair plastered to my skull, eyes that had forgotten how to hope. 23 years old, and I looked like a ghost. Omega! The word cut through the rain like a blade. I turned to find two alphas in designer suits blocking the narrow alley entrance. Their scents hit me before their words did. Expensive cologne mixed with the particular kind of arrogance that came from never having to worry about where your next meal would come from. "You're blocking the street," the taller one said, his lip curling. "Move." I was standing against a wall. There was literally 10 feet of sidewalk around me. "I'm not in your way," I said quietly, because arguing with alphas in this part of Seoul was a good way to end up with broken ribs and no one who'd care enough to call an ambulance. "Your existence is in our way." The second alpha stepped closer, and I caught the flash of a corporate badge. Hansong Group, one of the big three conglomerates that basically owned half the city. "This street is being cleared for development. Unaffiliated Omegas need to relocate to designated areas." Designated areas. He meant the shelters in Yeongdeungpo, where Omegas were packed 20 to a room and expected to be grateful for the privilege of having a roof overhead. "I'll move," I said, shouldering my backpack. Everything I owned fit in there. Wasn't that pathetic? "See that you do." The first alpha pulled out his phone, already dismissing my existence. "And get a sponsor, Omega. Seoul doesn't have space for strays." They walked away, their Italian leather shoes clicking against wet pavement, while I stood there with water seeping through the holes in my sneakers. A sponsor? Right, because alphas were just lining up to claim a nobody with no pack, no family, and no special skills beyond an apparently supernatural ability to survive on nothing. I started walking, no destination in mind, just movement, because standing still in this city meant becoming a target, and I was so tired of being everyone's acceptable punching bag. The thing nobody tells you about being unaffiliated is how invisible you become. People look through you like you're made of glass. Shop owners watch you with suspicion written across their faces. Other Omegas avoid you because your bad luck might be contagious. I'd been on my own since I was 16. 7 years of learning that the world didn't care if you lived or died, as long as you did it quietly and didn't inconvenience anyone important. My stomach growled again, loud enough that a passing beta shot me a disgusted look. Right. Food. I had maybe 3,001 left from my last under-the-table dishwashing job. Enough for a triangle kimbap from the convenience store, if I was lucky. I was halfway to the nearest 7-Eleven when I heard it. A scream. High-pitched, terrified, cutting through the rain like a knife through silk. Every instinct I had screamed at me to keep walking. This was Seoul. This was Guro District at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday. Getting involved in other people's problems was a luxury for people who had something to lose. But the scream came again, and this time I heard words. "Help! Someone, please!" It was a child. My feet stopped moving before my brain caught up. I stood there in the rain, water running down my face while some part of me that should have died years ago clawed its way to the surface. "Not your problem," the rational part of my brain whispered. "You can barely take care of yourself." The scream turned into sobbing. "Damn it," I muttered, and turned toward the sound. The alley was one of those narrow passages between buildings that souls seemed to grow like weeds. Overflowing dumpsters, broken bottles catching streetlight, and shadows deep enough to hide a dozen nightmares. 3 men stood in a semicircle around something small and shaking. No, not men. My wolf stirred uneasily in my chest, recognizing what my eyes were slower to process. Rogues. Alphas who'd rejected pack law in human society both, living in the spaces between civilization like predators waiting for easy prey. And their prey was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 5 or 6, wearing a pink raincoat that was too expensive for this neighborhood. Her face was streaked with tears and terror, and she was pressed against the alley wall like she could somehow push through the bricks and escape. Pretty thing, one of the rogues said, his voice rough with something that made my skin crawl. Wonder how much her family will pay to get her back. Who says we're giving her back? The second rogue laughed, and the sound had no humanity in it. The little girl's eyes found mine through the darkness. Wide, brown, desperate. Please, she mouthed. Please help. I should have run. Should have called the police and let them handle it. Should have done literally anything except what I did next. Hey! My voice came out stronger than I felt. Leave her alone. Three pairs of eyes snapped toward me. Three rogues who probably had more alpha power in their little fingers than I had in my entire body. The leader smiled, slow and cruel. Well, looks like dinner just got more interesting. He took a step toward me, and I saw the exact moment he scented what I was. Omega, alone, unprotected. His smile widened. Run, I told the little girl, not taking my eyes off the rogues. Run now. She didn't move, frozen with fear. The first rogue lunged. I dodged left, grabbed a broken bottle from the ground, and swung it at his face with everything I had. Glass connected with flesh. He howled, stumbling back with blood streaming from his cheek. You little... The second one came at me from the side. I ducked under his grab, but the third one caught my arm and yanked me backward. My shoulders screamed in protest as he slammed me against the wall hard enough to knock the air from my lungs. Feisty, he breathed against my ear, and his scent was all wrong. Aggressive, predatory, completely devoid of the control that separated civilized alphas from animals. I like that in prey. His hand closed around my throat. That's when something inside me shifted. It wasn't my wolf. It was something else. Something that had always been there, coiled beneath my ribs, waiting. The rogue's thoughts hit me like a physical blow. Images, intentions, the horrifying things he planned to do. Not just to me, but to the girl. To anyone unlucky enough to cross his path. No, I thought. Absolutely not. And I pushed back. The rogue's hand spasmed. His eyes went wide, pupils dilating as something in his brain misfired. He stumbled backward, clutching his head and making sounds like a wounded animal. I didn't understand what I'd done. Didn't have time to process it. The other two rogues turned on me with renewed fury, and I knew with absolute certainty that I was about to die in a Guro district alley, and no one would care enough to identify my body. Then the headlights hit us like a judgment from heaven itself. Three black SUVs with tinted windows and government plates screeched to a stop at the alley entrance. The doors opened in perfect synchronization, and men in dark suits poured out like water from a dam. Not just men. Alphas. Powerful ones. Their scent hitting the air with enough authority to make my wolf whimper and press itself flat against my spine. But it was the three who emerged last that made the world tilt sideways. They moved like kings surveying their kingdom. Like gravity worked differently for them. Like the rain itself bent around their presence out of respect. The first was tall, sharp-featured, with silver-gray hair, despite looking maybe 30. His eyes were the color of winter storms, and when they swept across the alley, I felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. The second was broader, with traditional features and ink-black hair pulled into a half ponytail. His presence felt like standing too close to a bonfire. Overwhelming, dangerous, magnetic. The third was the youngest, maybe mid-20s, with soft features that would have been beautiful if his eyes weren't currently filled with barely controlled violence. All three wore suits that probably cost more than I'd earn in 5 years. All three radiated the kind of power that made the rogues freeze like rabbits spotting a wolf pack. And all three were staring directly at me. "Step away from him," the silver-haired one said softly. His voice carried despite the rain, despite the distance. Command woven through every syllable. The rogues ran, just turned and bolted into the darkness like their lives depended on it. Smart. I sagged against the wall, my legs suddenly refusing to support my weight. The adrenaline was leaving my system in waves, taking my ability to stand with it. The little girl ran past me toward the three alphas, crying, "Papas!" in a voice choked with relief. Papas. Plural. Oh no. The youngest alpha caught her, lifting her into his arms while his face transformed from barely controlled violence to tender concern. Co Yan, sweetheart. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? The Omega saved me, the girl, Co Yan said, pointing a small finger in my direction. The bad men were going to take me, but he fought them. He was so brave, Papa Jinwoo. Six eyes turned to look at me again. Really look at me this time. I was acutely aware of how I must appear. Soaked, bruised, bleeding from somewhere I couldn't identify, wearing clothes that should have been thrown out 2 winters ago. The broad-shouldered alpha approached slowly, like I was a wounded animal that might bolt. Maybe I was. You're injured, he observed. His voice was deeper than the ocean, and despite everything, my traitorous Omega biology responded to the concern in it. Let us help you. I'm fine. The words came out shaky, unconvincing. I should go. I tried to push off the wall. My legs had other ideas about that plan. I would have face-planted into a puddle if the alpha hadn't moved with impossible speed to catch me. His hands were gentle despite his strength, and his scent, rain-soaked pine and something warm I couldn't name, wrapped around me like safety I'd never known. Easy, he murmured. You're in shock. Just breathe. Who are you? I managed to ask, though I was starting to suspect I already knew the answer. Already knew I'd just stepped into something so far above my pay grade, it wasn't even funny. The silver-haired alpha knelt down to my eye level, his winter storm gaze searching my face with uncomfortable intensity. My name is Kang Hyunwoo, he said quietly. These are my mates, Park Min-ho and Choi Jinwoo. And that brave little girl you saved? He paused, and something in his expression made my stomach drop. She's our daughter, Princess Kang Seo-yeon, the royal heir we've been searching for 3 months. The world went sideways again. Princess, royal heir, 3 months. I'd just saved the lost princess of the Korean supernatural royal family. And judging by the way all 3 alpha kings were looking at me now, like I was a puzzle they needed to solve, like I was precious, like I was theirs. My life of comfortable invisibility had just ended forever. What's your name, Omega? Hyunwoo asked, his voice soft but carrying the weight of absolute authority. I should have lied, should have given a fake name and disappeared into the Seoul night the first chance I got. Instead, because apparently I was an idiot with a death wish, I told the truth. Min Taeyang, I whispered. My name is Min Taeyang. Min Taeyang, Hyunwoo repeated, like he was tasting the syllables, testing them, claiming them. You saved our daughter's life. That makes you very important to us. The way he said important made something in my chest tighten with equal parts hope and terror. Minho's arms tightened around me fractionally. We're taking you home with us. You need medical attention. I don't need... That wasn't a request, Jinwoo said, his young face suddenly carrying all the weight of royal authority. You saved our daughter. You're under our protection now, whether you want to be or not. I looked between the 3 of them, alpha kings of supernatural Korea, probably the 3 most powerful beings in the entire country, and at little Seo-yeon watching me with hopeful brown eyes. What if I refuse? I asked, because apparently I really did have a death wish. Hyunwoo smiled. It was a beautiful, terrifying thing. Then we'll follow you, he said simply, until you accept that you belong with us now, however long that takes. Belong with them. Me. The invisible Omega who'd spent 7 years learning that belonging was for other people, that safety was an illusion and caring about anyone was just setting yourself up for pain. I should have fought, should have run, but I was so tired of being invisible. Fine, I heard myself say, but just for tonight, just until I'm patched up. All 3 of them smiled like I'd just given them something precious, like they knew what I hadn't yet admitted to myself, that there was no just for tonight, that the moment I'd stepped into that alley, the moment I'd chosen to save their daughter, I'd set something in motion that couldn't be stopped. That invisibility was no longer an option, that these 3 alpha kings had just claimed me with their eyes. And the terrifying part, some broken, desperate part of me wanted to be claimed. The thought barely had time to settle before Minho was lifting me, like I weighed nothing, which given my recent diet of air and regret, maybe I didn't. I can walk, I protested, even though we both knew it was a lie. My legs were still doing their best impression of overcooked noodles. I'm sure you can, Minho agreed, his voice carrying the kind of patient amusement that made me want to bite him. But this is faster. He carried me toward the lead SUV, and I became acutely aware of several things at once. One, he smelled absolutely incredible up close, like pine forest after rain, mixed with something uniquely him that made my omega biology sit up and pay embarrassing amounts of attention. Two, his arms were ridiculously solid, which my brain decided to catalog in detail despite the current crisis. Three, I was getting his very expensive suit wet, and that felt like the kind of thing I should apologize for. Your suit, I started, can be replaced. He looked down at me, and something in his dark eyes made my breath catch. You can't. Oh, that was not a thing I knew how to process. Hyunwoo opened the SUV door, and the interior was exactly as ridiculous as I'd expected. Leather seats that probably cost more than my entire existence, soft lighting, and the kind of space that suggested the word luxury was just a starting point. Minho set me down with a gentleness that made my chest ache. Jinwoo climbed in on my other side, with Seo Yeon still clutched in his arms, while Hyunwoo took the seat across from us. The driver pulled away from the curb with the kind of smooth acceleration that suggested this vehicle cost more than a small apartment building. Papa Hyunwoo, Seoyeon said, her voice still shaky from crying, is the Omega going to be okay? He's going to be fine, sweetheart. Hyunwoo's eyes never left my face. We'll make sure of it. The way he said, we'll make sure of it, carried the weight of absolute certainty, like the universe itself would bend to accommodate his will. Must be nice being that powerful. What's your name? Seoyeon asked me directly, her brown eyes curious despite the tear tracks on her cheeks. Taeyang, I said, because apparently I'd already committed to this disaster. Min Taeyang. That's a pretty name. She smiled, small and genuine. It means sunshine. Yeah, well, I gestured at my general everything. Ironic, right? Jinwoo made a sound that might have been a laugh. I don't know. You certainly lit up that alley. With my stunning good looks and natural charm. With your complete lack of self-preservation instinct, Hyunwoo corrected, but his lips twitched. 3 rogues, Taeyang. You took on 3 fully grown alpha rogues to protect a child you'd never met. When he put it like that, it did sound pretty stupid. Yeah, well, I shrugged, trying to ignore the way my shoulders screamed in protest. They were threatening a kid. What was I supposed to do, just walk away? Yes, all 3 alphas said in unison. I blinked. Seriously? Most people would have, Minho said quietly. His hand had somehow ended up on my uninjured shoulder, steady and warm. Most people would have called the authorities and protected themselves. You chose differently. Most people aren't idiots with a hero complex, I muttered. Most people aren't heroes, Hyunwoo countered. His winter storm eyes had softened fractionally. There's a difference. I didn't know what to do with that, so I focused on Seo Yeon instead. How did you end up in that alley anyway? Your dad seemed like the type to have security. Her face crumpled slightly. I ran away. Papa Jinwoo and Papa Minho were arguing about something boring, and Papa Hyunwoo was in meetings all day. And I just wanted to see the city, so I snuck out when the guards were changing shifts. Seo Yeon, Jinwoo's voice held gentle reproach. We've talked about this. I know. She buried her face in his chest. I'm sorry, I was stupid. You weren't stupid, I said before I could stop myself. You're 5. 5-year-olds do impulsive things. That's literally their job description. 3 pairs of eyes swung toward me again. I was getting really tired of that look. She's 6, Minho corrected quietly. Even more reason for impulsive decisions. 6-year-olds are basically tiny chaos gremlins with developing executive function. I looked at Seoyeon. But maybe next time you want to see the city, ask your dads to take you? Because Guro District at night is where hope goes to die, and you deserve better than that. She giggled despite herself. You're funny. I've been called worse things. The SUV glided through Seoul streets, and I watched the neighborhoods change through the window. Guro's industrial decay gave way to Gangnam's sleek modernity, which gave way to something else entirely. Private roads, security checkpoints, buildings that spoke of money so old it had forgotten its own origins. Where exactly are we going? I asked, though I was starting to suspect I knew the answer. Home, Hyunwoo said simply. The gate we pulled through had actual armed guards. The driveway was longer than some Seoul streets, and the building at the end of it. That's not a house, I said faintly. That's a palace. Technically, it's the royal residence of the ruling Alpha Triad, Jinwoo said, like that was a normal sentence. But yes, most people call it a palace. Of course they did. The SUV stopped in front of entrance doors that looked like they'd been stolen from a historical drama. Minho opened his door and turned back to me, clearly intending to carry me again. I can walk, I said firmly. Your legs are shaking. From adrenaline, not weakness. There's a difference. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Prove it. Challenge accepted. I slid out of the SUV and managed to stay vertical through sheer spite. My legs wobbled, my shoulder throbbed, and I was pretty sure I had glass embedded somewhere unpleasant. But I was standing. That counted for something. See? I took a step forward. Perfectly fine. That's when my traitorous body decided it had been running on fumes for too long. The world tilted sideways, and I would have face-planted into expensive marble if Minho hadn't caught me again. Perfectly fine, he echoed, but his voice was gentle rather than mocking. Of course you are. This doesn't prove anything, I muttered against his chest, which was unfairly solid and warm, and smelled way too good for someone I'd just met. I'm just conserving energy. Naturally, he carried me through doors that opened at our approach into a foyer that made me reassess what words like luxury and excessive actually meant. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, art that probably belonged in museums, and staff. So many staff, all in matching uniforms, all bowing as we passed. How many people live here? I asked weakly. Just us, Hyunwoo said. The staff commute. Just them. In a building that could house a small village. Must get lonely, I said without thinking. All three of them looked at me with expressions I couldn't read. It does, Minho said quietly. Very lonely. We passed through hallways that seemed designed to make visitors feel insignificant, up a staircase that belonged in a fairy tale, and into a room that made me forget how to breathe. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. Furniture that looked too expensive to sit on. A bed that could sleep 5 people comfortably. And an ensuite bathroom visible through an open door that was larger than most apartments I'd slept in. This is the guest suite, Jinwoo said, setting Seoyeon down on a nearby sofa. We'll have medical staff look at your injuries. I don't need— Yes, you do. Hyunwoo's voice carried gentle finality. You're bleeding in multiple places, possibly concussed, and running on empty. Let us help you, Taeyang. The way he said my name made something in my chest twist. Why? The question came out smaller than I intended. Why do you care? I'm nobody. Just some random omega who happened to be in the right place at the right time. You saved our daughter, Minho said simply, like that explained everything. So this is gratitude? Fancy medical care and a pretty room for one night, then back to the streets? No. Hyunwoo stepped closer, and suddenly the space felt smaller despite its ridiculous size. This is us recognizing that you're under our protection now. Whether you accept that or not is up to you. But you're not going back to the streets. Not tonight. Not ever. You can't just decide that. You don't know anything about me. We know you risked your life for a child you didn't know, Jinwoo said quietly. We know you fought 3 alpha rogues despite being outmatched and injured. We know you stood there bleeding and terrified and still told Seoyeon to run. That's not enough to— It's everything, Hyunwoo interrupted. His winter eyes held mine. It's everything that matters. A knock on the door saved me from having to respond to that. A woman in medical scrubs entered with a professional smile and a bag full of supplies that looked military grade. Your Majesties, she bowed to the alphas before turning to me. I'm Dr. Yoon. Let's get you looked at. The alphas moved toward the door, giving me space. Wait, Seoyeon said, clutching Jinwoo's hand. Can I stay? I want to make sure Taeyang-si is okay. Sweetheart, you should rest, Minho started. Please? She turned those big brown eyes on all 3 of her fathers. He saved me. I want to stay. The alphas exchanged looks that suggested an entire conversation happening in the space between heartbeats. 10 minutes, Hyunwoo said finally. Then bed. Seo-yeon beamed and settled onto the sofa, while Dr. Yoon gestured for me to sit on the bed's edge. This might sting, she warned, pulling out antiseptic. It did more than sting. It burned like liquid fire as she cleaned the cuts I'd gotten from the broken bottle and the rogue's claws. I tried not to react, but my hands clenched against the expensive duvet. A small hand slipped into mine. Seo-yeon had moved to sit next to me, her grip gentle but steady. You can squeeze if it hurts, she said seriously. That's what Papa Minho does when Papa Hyunwoo makes him get shots. I do not, Minho protested, but his voice carried warmth. You totally do, Jinwoo stage whispered. Last time, you nearly broke Hyunwoo's hand. That was different. That was a tetanus booster, which you needed because you insisted on helping with the fence repairs instead of letting the staff handle it. I like working with my hands. We know, Hyunwoo said dryly. Your tendency toward manual labor gives our security team heart palpitations. I watched them bicker with the ease of people who'd spent years learning each other's rhythms. The way Minho's eyes softened when he looked at Jinwoo. The way Jinwoo leaned infinitesimally toward Hyunwoo. The way Hyunwoo's stern expression cracked into fondness when Seo-yeon giggled. This was a family, real, messy, loving, and I was suddenly, painfully aware that I'd never had that. Never had people who'd bicker over tetanus shots and fence repairs. Never had someone to hold my hand when things hurt. You're crying, Seo-yeon said softly. I was. Damn it. Sorry. I wiped at my face with my free hand. I'm just tired. It's okay to cry when you're tired, she said with the wisdom of someone who'd clearly been told this before. Papa Jinwoo cries at sad movies all the time. Seo-yeon, Jinwoo said mortified. What? You do. You cried during that animated thing about the robots. That ending was emotional and you know it. Dr. Yoon finished her work with professional efficiency. No concussion, thankfully. Bruised ribs, multiple lacerations, mild shock. You'll be sore for a few days, but nothing permanent. She packed up her supplies. Rest, fluids, and actual food. When did you last eat? Does rainwater count? Her expression suggested it very much did not count. I'll have the kitchen prepare something, Hyunwoo said, his voice carrying an edge of something that might have been anger. Not at me, at the circumstances that had led to me drinking rainwater as a meal. Nothing fancy, I said quickly. Just whatever's easy. You'll eat what we give you, Minho said, but his tone was gentle. And you'll eat all of it. Bossy, you have no idea. Dr. Yoon left with another bow. Hyunwoo checked his watch and looked at Seo-yeon with parental firmness. Bedtime, little star. But no buts. You've had quite enough adventure for one evening. She pouted but slid off the bed and gave me an impulsive hug that nearly knocked me over. Thank you for saving me, Taeyang Si. Just Taeyang is fine, kid. Thank you, Taeyang. She pulled back and looked at her fathers. He can stay, right? Forever? We're working on it, Jinwoo said, shooting me a look I couldn't quite interpret. They left in a flurry of good nights and promises to check on me later. And then I was alone in a room that cost more than my life. I should have felt grateful, should have been planning my graceful exit tomorrow morning with enough thanks to be polite but firm in my independence. Instead, I felt the weight of Seo-yeon's question hanging in the air. He can stay, right? Forever. And the terrifying thing was how much a broken part of me wanted to say yes. I sat there on the edge of a bed worth more than my education, staring at my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. Seoul sparkled below like someone had spilled stars across the city, and I looked like something the cat dragged in and then thought better of. My phone buzzed in my wet jeans pocket. I pulled it out, surprised it still worked after the alley incident. 3 missed calls from the convenience store where I'd been picking up overnight shifts. Right. I was supposed to work tonight. I pulled up the manager's contact and typed out a quick message. Emergency. Can't make it. Sorry. His response came fast. Don't bother coming back. Already hired your replacement. Of course he had. In Seoul's service industry, everyone was replaceable, especially unaffiliated omegas with no references and a tendency to miss shifts because they couldn't afford subway fare. I should have felt panic. That was one of my 3 income sources. gone. But sitting in this ridiculous room, wearing clothes that smelled like garbage and blood, I couldn't quite muster the energy to care. A soft knock interrupted my spiral into self-pity. "Come in," I called, expecting maybe a staff member with towels or something equally mundane. Minho entered carrying a tray that smelled like heaven had learned to cook. He changed out of his wetsuit into casual clothes that probably still cost more than a car, but somehow made him look less intimidating, more human. "You said nothing fancy," he said, setting the tray on the low table near the window. "So I made you jjigae and rice." I blinked. "You made it? Like, personally?" "I like cooking," he shrugged, almost self-conscious. "It helps me think." The stew was still steaming, rich with the smell of kimchi and pork, and comfort I hadn't known I was craving. My stomach made an embarrassing sound that was probably audible in North Korea. "When did you last eat?" Minho asked again, his voice careful. "Why does everyone keep asking me that?" "Because you look like a strong wind could knock you over, and you're clearly running on fumes and spite." "Spite is very nutritious." "Taeyang." He sat across from me, his dark eyes serious. "Please, just answer the question." There was something in his voice that bypassed all my defensive walls. Something genuine and concerned and completely unlike the way most alphas talk to omegas they just met. "3 days, I admitted quietly. 4 if you don't count the triangle kimbap I stole from a 7-Eleven. His jaw tightened. "You stole food. I was hungry." Defensive now because I knew how that sounded. "And before you judge, I left money. Not enough, but what I had. I'm not a thief, I'm just broke. There's a difference." "I'm not judging." His voice was soft. "I'm angry that you had to make that choice at all." "Oh, that was unexpected." "Eat," he said, pushing the tray closer. "Please, before it gets cold." I picked up the spoon with hands that shook slightly. The first bite hit my tongue and I nearly cried again, because when was the last time someone had made me food? Real food, not convenience store rice balls or restaurant leftovers, but something prepared with care and warmth. "Good?" Minho asked. "It's perfect." I took another bite, then another, trying not to shovel it in like an animal, but failing spectacularly. "Thank you." "You don't have to thank me for basic care, Taeyang. In my experience, basic care isn't actually that basic." Something painful crossed his expression. "Tell me." "Tell you what?" "How you ended up alone, unaffiliated, living on the streets of Guro." I should have deflected, should have made a joke or changed the subject, or done literally anything except what I did next. "My parents died when I was 16, I heard myself say. "Car accident, no extended family, no pack willing to take in an unbonded omega with no prospects. I aged out of the state care system at 18 and found out real fast that Seoul doesn't have much use for people like me." "People like you," Minho repeated, his voice tight. "You mean omegas?" "I mean people with nothing to offer." I set down the spoon, my appetite suddenly gone despite my stomach's protests. No education beyond high school, no pack connections, no sponsor willing to claim me. Do you know what it's like being invisible? Walking through a city of 10 million people and knowing that not a single one of them would notice if you disappeared? You're not invisible. I was. Until tonight. I laughed, but it came out bitter. Until I did something incredibly stupid and saved a little girl who turned out to be a princess. Now I'm sitting in a palace eating homemade jjigae while 3 alpha kings decide what to do with the charity case. "Is that what you think this is?" Minho's voice carried an edge I hadn't heard before. "Charity? What else would it be?" He stood abruptly, pacing to the window with restless energy that made my wolf take notice. Alpha upset, alpha agitated. My biology wanted me to soothe him, which was ridiculous because I barely knew him, and also I was still processing the whole royalty thing. "You saved our daughter," he said finally, his back to me. "Do you understand what that means? Seo Yan is the only child we'll ever have, the heir to the throne, the most precious thing in our world. She's been missing for 3 months, Taeyang. 3 months of every resource, every contact, every favor we could call in, and we found nothing. Then you, an unaffiliated Omega, with no pack and no resources, found her in a Guro alley, and fought 3 rogues to protect her. I didn't know who she was. Exactly. He turned back to face me, and something in his expression made my breath catch. You risked your life for a child you didn't know, expected nothing in return, and now you're sitting here calling it stupid. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How precious? I'm not precious. I'm a mess. You're both. He moved closer, and I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. And you're not charity. You're someone who deserves care and safety and a home that doesn't disappear when the rent comes due. I can take care of myself. You shouldn't have to. His hand lifted like he wanted to touch my face, then dropped. Not alone. Not anymore. The door opened again before I could figure out how to respond to that. Hyunwoo entered with his usual controlled grace, followed by Jinwoo carrying a stack of clothing. How are you feeling? Hyunwoo asked, those winter eyes cataloging every visible injury with uncomfortable precision. Like I got in a fight with 3 alphas and a brick wall. Accurate. Jinwoo set the clothes on the bed. These should fit. They're Minho's, since you're closest in size. I have clothes. You have wet, bloody rags, Hyunwoo corrected gently. These are clean and dry. Humor us. I wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some semblance of independence and dignity, but my clothes smelled like alley garbage, and old fear, and the soft cotton Jinwoo had brought looked like comfort I hadn't earned. Fine, I muttered, but I'm keeping my own underwear. We wouldn't dream of arguing, Jinwoo said, but his lips twitched. Hyunwoo moved to the window where Minho still stood, their shoulders touching in casual intimacy. We need to talk about security. If Seo-yeon could slip away from trained guards, we have a serious problem. Already handled, Minho said. I've spoken with Captain Nam. New protocols start tomorrow. Good. Hyunwoo's gaze drifted back to me. We also need to discuss Taeyang's situation. Oh, good. The charity case discussion. My favorite. What situation? I asked, because apparently I enjoyed emotional pain. Your living arrangements, Hyunwoo said carefully. You can't go back to Guro. Why not? It's where I live. Lived, Jinwoo corrected. Past tense. The rogues saw you with Seo-yeon, saw you interfere with their plans. Do you think they're just going to forget that? Ice slid down my spine. I hadn't thought about that. Hadn't considered that saving Seo-yeon might have painted a target on my back. So what? I hide here forever? Become your kept Omega? The words came out sharper than I intended. Thanks, but no thanks. I'll take my chances. You'll die, Minho said bluntly. Those rogues run in packs. They'll find you, hurt you, and use you to get to Seo-yeon. Is that what you want? I want to not be someone's burden. You're not a burden, all 3 of them said in unison. The synchronization would have been funny if I wasn't busy trying not to cry again. Then what am I? I stood, ignoring how my ribs screamed in protest. Because from where I'm standing, I'm an unaffiliated Omega with no prospects who saved your daughter, and now you feel obligated to help. That's charity. That's pity. And I've had enough of both to last a lifetime. You're under our protection, Hyunwoo said, his voice carrying absolute finality. That's not negotiable. You can't just decide that. We already have. That's not how consent works. Consent? Jinwoo's eyebrows rose. Taeyang, we're not claiming you. We're offering you sanctuary. There's a difference. Is there? Because it feels an awful lot like my choices are stay here and be grateful, or leave and die. That's not really a choice. Silence fell like snow. All 3 alphas stared at me with expressions ranging from frustrated to concerned to something I couldn't name. You're right, Hyunwoo said finally. You're absolutely right, and I apologize. We're approaching this wrong. That was not what I expected. Here's what we're proposing, he continued, his voice losing some of its edge. Stay here, not as charity, not as obligation. Stay as Seo-yeon's companion and guard. You prove tonight you can protect her. We'll pay you a salary, provide room and board, and give you the security you need to be safe. A job, I said slowly. A job, Minho confirmed, with benefits, time off, and the freedom to leave whenever you want, once the immediate danger has passed. It was a neat solution. Too neat. There had to be a catch. Why? I asked. Why go through all this trouble for one random omega? Because Seoyan asked us to, Jinwoo said simply. Because she feels safe with you. Because in the 30 seconds you had to make a choice, you chose her over your own safety. That's not something we can repay with a one-time reward. And, Hyunwoo added, his winter eyes holding mine, because you deserve better than what life has given you. Let us provide that, please. The please nearly destroyed me. Alpha Kings didn't say please to Omegas like me. They commanded, demanded, expected obedience. But these three were asking, offering, giving me the choice they claimed I didn't have. 1 month, I heard myself say. Trial period. I'll stay, do the job, see if it works. After that, we reassess. 1 month, Hyunwoo agreed, but something in his smile suggested he knew what I hadn't admitted yet, that there was no way I was leaving after 1 month, that Seo-Yan had already wrapped herself around my heart, that these three alphas were offering me something I'd stopped believing existed, a home. Now eat your jigae before it gets cold, Minho said, his voice warm, and then shower. You smell like Ali. Rude but accurate. I sat back down and picked up the spoon. The stew had cooled slightly but still tasted like safety and care, and things I didn't have words for. We'll leave you. To rest, Hyunwoo said, moving toward the door. If you need anything, press the call button by the bed. Staff will respond immediately. Or just shout, Jinwoo added. We're right down the hall. They filed out, leaving me alone with cold jjigae and thoughts that wouldn't settle. I finished eating because wasting Minho's cooking felt criminal. Then I grabbed the clothes and headed for the bathroom, which turned out to be larger than most Seoul apartments and approximately as intimidating. The shower had 17 different settings. 17. I chose the one that looked least likely to accidentally activate some kind of spa feature and stepped under water that was hot and clean and absolutely perfect. I watched Guro District wash off my skin in muddy streams, watched blood and dirt and fear spiral down the drain, and I cried because sometimes you held everything together until you were finally safe enough to fall apart. By the time I emerged, wrapped in a towel that felt like clouds, I was empty in the way that only comes after a good cry. I pulled on Minho's clothes, soft cotton pants and a shirt that smelled like pine and comfort, and collapsed onto the bed that could sleep 5 people. Sleep should have come easily. I was exhausted, injured, and emotionally wrung out. Instead, I lay there staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying the entire evening on loop. The rogues, the fight. The moment I touched that rogue's mind and pushed. That had been new, terrifying, impossible. I'd felt his thoughts, not just surface emotions, but actual coherent plans and intentions. And I'd made them stop, made his brain short-circuit just by willing it. What the hell was that? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Hello? Taeyang C? A female voice, professional and concerned. This is Officer Park from Guro Station. We have some questions about the incident tonight. Would you be available to come in tomorrow for a statement? My stomach dropped. Yes, what time? 10 a.m. We'll need details about the rogues and what happened before the Royal Guard arrived. I'll be there. I hung up and stared at my phone. Police statements meant paperwork. Paperwork meant my address, my lack of PAC affiliation, my general existence becoming part of an official record. Paperwork meant the rogues could find me if they wanted to. A soft knock made me jump. It's Jinwoo, came the voice through the door. Can I come in? Sure. He entered carrying a glass of water and what looked like pain medication. His soft features held concern as he took in whatever expression I was wearing. You look like you've seen a ghost. Police called. They want a statement tomorrow. Understanding flickered across his face. We'll handle it. You won't go alone. You don't have to do that. Taeyang. He sat on the bed's edge, careful to maintain respectful distance. You're under our protection now. That means we handle things like police statements and rogue threats and anything else that might put you in danger. Let us help. I'm not used to people helping. I know. His voice was gentle. But maybe it's time to get used to it. He handed me the water and pills. I took them because my ribs were screaming and my shoulder felt like someone had set it on fire. Can I ask you something? Jinwoo said. Sure. Why didn't you run in the alley? You could have left Seo-yeon and saved yourself. No one would have blamed you. I would have blamed me. Why? I thought about it. About years of being invisible and disposable and less than. About learning that the world didn't care if you lived or died. Because she was scared, I said finally, and I remember what it's like to be that scared with no one coming to help. I couldn't do that to her. Couldn't be one more person who looked away. Jinwoo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. You're going to fit in here better than you think. Because I have a hero complex? Because you care. He stood, moving toward the door. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be complicated. Wait. The word escaped before I could stop it. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why three? Why do you, Hyunwoo, and Minho all bond together? That's not common. He smiled, sad and sweet. Because sometimes one person isn't enough to fill all the empty spaces. Sometimes you need multiple people to make a whole. His eyes met mine. Sometimes broken things fit together better than perfect ones ever could. He left before I could process that, closing the door with a soft click. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling again. Broken things fitting together. Maybe that's what I'd stumbled into. Not a charity case, not an obligation, a group of broken things trying to make something whole. And maybe, just maybe, there was space for one more broken piece. The thought had barely settled when my phone lit up again. Different number this time. I didn't recognize it, but something in my gut twisted wrong. I answered anyway because apparently I enjoyed terrible decisions. Min Taeyang? The voice was male, smooth, cultured, completely unfamiliar. Or should I say, the Omega who cost us a very valuable prize tonight. My blood turned to ice. Who is this? Someone who's very interested in your continued existence. You interfered with business that wasn't yours, little Omega. That has consequences. I sat up, ignoring how my ribs protested. If you're trying to scare me, it's working. Congratulations. Want a trophy? A low chuckle. I like you. Most Omegas would be crying by now. But you've got spine. That's good. You'll need it. What do you want? To give you a choice. Walk away from the royal family. Disappear back into whatever hole you crawled out of. Do that, and we forget you exist. And if I don't, then we make you remember why Omegas like you don't interfere with alpha business. His voice dropped, silk over steel. We know where you came from, Taeyang. Know about your dead parents, your lack of pack, every pathetic detail of your miserable little life. You have nothing. You are nothing. Don't pretend you belong with them just because you had one lucky night. Rage flared hot in my chest, burning away the fear. You know what? I've spent 7 years being told I'm nothing. I'm kind of numb to it now. So either make your actual threat or hang up, because I've got a really comfortable bed calling my name. Silence, then. You're making a mistake. Yeah, well, won't be my first. Probably won't be my last. I hung up before he could respond, then immediately regretted it because now I was shaking and nauseous and absolutely certain I'd just painted an even bigger target on my back. The phone buzzed again. Same number. I declined the call and blocked it, which felt like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. I should tell someone, should march down the hall and inform the Alpha Kings that I'd just been threatened by what was almost certainly the rogue's boss or handler or whatever criminal hierarchy they operated under. Instead, I sat there holding my phone and trying not to vomit from the adrenaline crash. A soft sound made me look up. The door I'd been certain was closed stood slightly ajar, and Hyunwoo filled the opening like some kind of avenging angel in expensive pajamas. I heard your heart rate spike, he said calmly, stepping inside. Security monitors vital signs in all guest rooms. Who was on the phone? Of course they did, because normal houses didn't monitor their guests' heart rates, but palaces apparently had different standards. Just spam, I lied. Spam doesn't make you go pale and start hyperventilating. Try again. I wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some illusion of handling my own problems. But Hyunwoo was looking at me with those winter storm eyes, and something about his expression suggested lying would be both pointless and potentially insulting. Rogue, I admitted, or whoever's running them. They called to threaten me, said I should disappear or face consequences. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. Hyunwoo's expression didn't change, but something in his scent shifted. Winter frost turning to black ice. What exactly did they say? The usual villain speech. Stay away from the royal family, you're nothing. We know everything about you, blah, blah, blah. I tried to sound dismissive, but my voice shook. I hung up on them, which in retrospect was probably stupid. No? Hyunwoo moved closer, and I became acutely aware that he was wearing silk pajamas that probably cost more than a used car. That was exactly right. You don't negotiate with terrorists. Pretty sure hanging up on terrorists just makes them angrier. Let them be angry. He held out his hand. Give me your phone. I handed it over, watching as he pulled up the block number and forwarded it somewhere with quick, efficient movements. His fingers flew across the screen with the kind of competence that suggested he did this often. Captain Nam will trace this, he said, handing the phone back. We'll know who called within the hour. Just like that? Just like that? He sat on the bed's edge, close enough that I could feel his body heat. Taeyang, I need you to understand something. The people who took Seo-yeon weren't random rogues looking for ransom. They were professionals working for someone with significant resources and political motivation. My stomach dropped. Political motivation? The royal succession is complicated. There are factions who would prefer a different heir, or no heir at all. His jaw tightened. Seo-yeon's existence threatens certain people's ambitions. They've tried to eliminate her before. Before? My voice came out higher than intended. How many times? 4. Tonight was the 5th attempt. He looked at me, really looked, and something in his expression made my chest tight. You're the first person who successfully protected her. The first person who chose her safety over your own without hesitation or political calculation. I didn't know any of that. I just heard a kid screaming. I know. His hand lifted, hovering near my face like he wanted to touch, but wasn't sure he had permission. That's what makes it remarkable. Or stupid. Those aren't mutually exclusive. His lips curved slightly. But I'm grateful for your particular brand of stupidity. A sound from the hallway made us both turn. Minho appeared in the doorway, his expression dark. The number's a burner, he said without preamble. Activated tonight, used once, already destroyed. But we pulled location data. The call originated from Gangnam, specifically from a building owned by the SCO Corporation. Hyunwoo went very still. The SCO Corporation? Yeah. Minho's voice was grim. Which means either someone's using their facilities without permission or we have a much bigger problem than rogues. Hyunwoo stood, his movements controlled but radiating tension. Call a security. Meeting. Now. Everyone. Minho nodded and disappeared. Hyunwoo turned back to me, and I really didn't like whatever expression he was wearing. What's the SEO Corporation? I asked, though I was starting to suspect I didn't want to know. One of the oldest and most powerful pack alliances in Korea. They've held the position of royal advisors for 3 generations. He paused. They're also politically opposed to our triad bond. They believe the throne should pass to a traditional single alpha bloodline. Let me guess. They have a candidate in mind? Seo De-hyun, his daughter. Hyunwoo's expression was carved from ice. Who would have a much clearer path to the throne if Seo-yeon didn't exist? Oh no. So you're saying that the people trying to kill your daughter are your own political advisors? I'm saying it's a possibility we can't ignore. He looked at me, and something in his gaze made my breath catch. Which means you're in more danger than we realized. If they know you interfered, if they see you as an obstacle, they'll come after me. I finished the thought he was too polite to say. Great, fantastic. Love that for me. We won't let them touch you. You can't promise that. Watch me. The absolute certainty in his voice should have been reassuring. Instead, it made me want to laugh hysterically, because apparently I'd gone from invisible street Omega to political target in the span of a few hours. Jinwoo appeared next, already dressed despite the hour. Security team is assembling. We need to move Seo-yeon to the safe room. Already done, Minho called from somewhere down the hall. She's with her guards and completely secure. The efficiency was impressive and terrifying in equal measure. This was clearly a well-practiced routine, which said horrible things about how often they dealt with threats. Taeyang. Hyunwoo's attention focused back on me with laser precision. I need you to stay in this room. Don't open the door for anyone except us. If you hear anything suspicious, there's a panic button behind the headboard. Press it and guards will respond in seconds. I'm not a child. No, you're a target. There's a difference. He moved toward the door, then paused. I'm sorry. This isn't what we wanted for your first night here. Yeah, well, my life's been a series of disappointments. At least this one comes with good jarige. He smiled despite everything. We'll be back as soon as the situation is assessed. Try to rest. Sure. I'll just take a nice relaxing nap while political assassins plan my demise. Should be super restful. All three of them left, and I was alone again in my gilded cage. I sat on the bed, pulled my knees to my chest, and tried to process the last few hours. I'd saved a princess, moved into a palace, been threatened by what were apparently high-level political conspirators, and somehow managed to catch the attention of three alpha kings who looked at me like I was precious instead of disposable. It was too much. All of it was too much. My phone buzzed. Different number, but my stomach still dropped. Hello? Taeyangsi? A young female voice, hesitant. This is Jung Mirai. I work at the convenience store. I heard about what happened tonight. Are you okay? I blinked. Mirai was the cashier who sometimes slipped me expired bread when the manager wasn't looking. The one person in Guro who'd been consistently kind without expecting anything in return. I'm fine, I said, my throat tight. How did you hear? It's all over the news. Unaffiliated Omega saves Royal Heir. They're not using your name, but everyone at the store knows it's you. She paused. They're saying you're a hero. A hero. Me, the invisible Omega who'd spent 7 years just trying to survive. I'm not a hero. I just did what anyone would do. No, you didn't. Most people would have walked away. Her voice was firm. I'm glad you're safe. And Taeyang, be careful. People are talking and not all of it is good. What do you mean? Some folks are angry, saying you're getting above your station, that you don't deserve royal attention. There's talk about teaching you a lesson. She sounded genuinely worried. Just watch your back, okay? We said goodbye, and I sat there staring at my phone. So now I had threats from political conspirators and random Seoul citizens who thought I was getting too big for my non-existent britches. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. A soft scratching sound made me freeze. It was coming from the window, which was impossible because we were 3 floors up. I moved slowly toward the sound, every instinct screaming that this was a terrible idea. The window overlooked the gardens, all manicured perfection and strategic lighting. Nothing out there except a face appeared on the other side of the glass. Male, young, with a smile that was all wrong. I screamed. The window shattered inward in an explosion of glass and noise. The intruder was through it before I could process movement, landing in a crouch that spoke of serious training. Hello, little Omega, he said, straightening. We need to talk. I grabbed the nearest object, which turned out to be an extremely expensive-looking vase, and threw it at his head. He dodged, laughing. Feisty? They said you were feisty. They say a lot of things. Get out. Can't do that. My employer wants to meet you, ask you some questions about tonight. He took a step forward. You can come quietly, or we can do this the hard way. I hit the panic button behind the headboard so hard I probably broke it. I choose option 3, I said, backing toward the door, where I scream really loud and armed guards turn you into a chew toy. You already screamed. No one's coming. His smile widened. The security system's been compromised. The guards are busy with a false alarm on the east wing. It's just you and me. Panic clawed at my throat, but I shoved it down. Panic got you killed. Thinking kept you alive. The intruder moved fast, but I was already diving for the bathroom. I slammed the door and locked it, which bought me maybe 30 seconds before he kicked it down. My phone. I still had my phone. I pulled it out with shaking hands and called the first number in my recent calls. It rang once before Hyunwoo's voice cut through. Taeyang. Intruder, guest room. He says security's compromised. I pressed myself against the far wall as something heavy hit the bathroom door. He came through the window. We're coming. Hide. Don't engage. The door splintered. I looked around desperately for a weapon and grabbed a heavy marble soap dispenser that probably cost more than my life used to be worth. The intruder stepped through the broken door, still wearing that wrong smile. That was a bad choice, Omega. Yeah, well, I'm full of those. He lunged. I swung the soap dispenser with everything I had. Hana connected with his temple with a sound like a ripe melon hitting pavement. He went down hard. I stood there, breathing hard, marble dispenser still raised for another hit. That's when the thing inside me that had woken up in the alley stirred again. The thing that had made the rogue's brain short-circuit. The thing I didn't understand. Without meaning to, I reached out toward the unconscious intruder's mind. And I saw. Images flooded through me. A woman's face, cold and beautiful. Orders given in a cultured voice. Money changing hands. The window route. The compromised security. The plan to take me quietly. And underneath it all, a name that made my blood freeze. Seo Minji, daughter of Seo Daehyun. The woman who wanted Seo Yeon dead. I stumbled back, breaking the connection. My head spun from the sudden influx of information, and I barely stayed upright. The door to the bedroom crashed open. Hyunwoo, Minho, and Jinwoo burst through with a security team that looked ready for war. They took in the scene. Me, shaking and holding a soap dispenser. The intruder, unconscious on the bathroom floor. The shattered window. He came through there, I said, pointing. My voice sounded far away. Said security was compromised, that someone wanted to ask me questions. Minho moved to my side immediately, his hands gentle as he checked me for injuries. Are you hurt? No. I hit him with expensive bathroom fixtures. Pretty sure that's not what they're designed for. I don't care what they're designed for. His voice was rough with relief. You're safe. That's all that matters. Hyunwoo knelt beside the unconscious intruder, his expression carved from winter itself. I know him. Park Ji-hoon. He's a mercenary, high level. Someone paid serious money for this. Seo Minji, I said. The words felt pulled from somewhere deep. She hired him. She wants to know who I am and why I interfered. 3 pairs of eyes snapped to me. How do you know that? Jinwoo asked carefully. How did I explain this? How did I explain that I'd touched the intruder's mind and stolen his memories like some kind of psychic burglar? I just know. I saw it. In his head. The silence stretched like taffy. Taeyang, Hyunwoo said slowly. Did you just read his mind? I don't know. Maybe. Is that a thing Omegas can do? No, all 3 of them said. Oh. I looked down at my hands like they'd betrayed me. Well, that's new. Minho's hands tightened on my shoulders, steady and grounding. New or not, we're getting you out of this room. Somewhere actually secure. Where's more secure than a palace? The inner sanctum, Hyunwoo said. Where we sleep. It's designed to withstand a siege. I can't just move into your bedroom. You can and you will. His voice brooked no argument. Someone just breached our security, shattered a 3rd-floor window, and tried to kidnap you. Your opinion on appropriate sleeping arrangements has been overruled by reality. Security guards hauled the unconscious intruder away. Others sealed the broken window with practiced efficiency. The whole operation took maybe 5 minutes, and then I was being escorted down hallways that grew progressively more secure. Biometric locks, armed guards, doors that looked like they belonged in a bank vault. The inner sanctum turned out to be a suite that made my guest room look like a broom closet. Floor-to-ceiling windows with what I assumed was bulletproof glass. A massive bed that could definitely sleep 5 people comfortably. And the scent of all 3 alphas woven together so thoroughly that my omega biology sat up and purred. You'll sleep here tonight, Minho said. We'll take turns on watch. All 3 of you? All 3 of us, Jinwoo confirmed. Someone's escalating. They went from threatening phone calls to direct assault in under an hour. That suggests desperation. Or confidence, Hyunwoo added grimly. Either way, you're not leaving our site until we neutralize the threat. I wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some independence. But I was so tired and my head hurt from whatever I'd done to the intruder's mind, and these three alphas were looking at me like I was something precious they'd almost lost. Fine, I said, but I'm sleeping on top of the covers. I have boundaries. Noted, Minho said, but something in his smile suggested he knew exactly how long those boundaries would last. I climbed onto the bed, still wearing his borrowed clothes, and tried not to think about how the sheets smelled like safety. Hunwoo moved to a desk in the corner, pulling up security feeds on multiple screens. Jinwoo settled into a chair with a tablet, coordinating with guards. Minho just stood there watching me with dark eyes that saw too much. What? I asked. You hit an intruder with a soap dispenser. It was heavy and expensive. Seemed like a waste to not weaponize it. He laughed, soft and genuine. You're incredible, you know that. I'm a disaster with decent reflexes. You're a miracle. He moved closer. And tomorrow we're going to figure out how you read that intruder's mind. Because that ability, that's not normal omega biology. That's something else entirely. Something else like what? His eyes met mine, serious now. Like maybe you're not as ordinary as you think you are. I stared at him, trying to process that statement while my brain felt like it was full of static. Ordinary is literally all I've ever been. Trust me, if I was special, someone would have noticed in the last 23 years. Would they? Minho sat on the bed's edge, careful to maintain space but close enough that I could feel his warmth. Or would a scared kid learn to hide anything that made them different? Anything that might attract the wrong kind of attention? The accuracy of that hit like a physical blow. I looked away, focusing on Hyunwoo's back as he studied security feeds with intense concentration. I don't hide things, I just survive. There's a difference. Is there? Jinwoo's voice came from the chair, gentle but probing. Because from where I'm sitting, you've spent years making yourself invisible. And people who work that hard at disappearing usually have something worth hiding. Or they just don't want to get hurt. Also true. Minho's hand moved like he wanted to touch me, then stopped. But tonight you did something impossible. You touched a trained mercenary's mind and pulled out specific information. That's not survival instinct, Taeyang. That's power. The word made my skin crawl. Power meant attention. Attention meant danger. I'd learned that lesson young and never forgotten it. Maybe it was a fluke, adrenaline or something. Try it again. Hyunwoo turned from his screens, his winter eyes sharp with curiosity. Not on the mercenary, on one of us. What? No. Why not? Because going into someone's head without permission feels like violation. And also because, what if I break something? You won't break anything. Hyunwoo moved closer, his presence commanding without being threatening. And we're giving permission. I want to know what you can do, what you've been hiding from yourself. I haven't been hiding anything. I barely know what happened. Then let's find out together. He held out his hand, palm up, an offering, not a demand. Touch me, try to read my thoughts. My heart hammered against my ribs. This felt dangerous in ways I couldn't articulate. Like opening a door I'd kept locked for good reason. But three pairs of eyes were watching me with expectation and curiosity and something that might have been hope. And I was so tired of running from things I didn't understand. Fine. I reached out, my fingers trembling slightly as they touched Hyunwoo's palm. But if I accidentally lobotomize you, that's on you. Noted. His skin was warm, calloused in places that suggested he did more than sit behind desks. I closed my eyes and tried to remember how it had felt in the alley with the rogue, how it had felt with the mercenary. There had been a reaching sensation, like extending something I couldn't see towards something I couldn't touch. Mental muscles I'd never known I had. I reached, and Hyunwoo's mind opened like a flower. It wasn't words or images at first. It was emotion. Fierce protectiveness layered over bone-deep worry. Relief that I was safe mixed with fury at the threat. And underneath it all, something warm and possessive that made my breath catch. Then images started filtering through. Seo Yan laughing. Minho cooking in a sun-filled kitchen. Jinwoo curled up reading with that soft smile he wore when he thought no one was looking. And threaded through all of it, a new presence. Me, soaked and defiant in an alley. bleeding and sarcastic in a guest room, brave and beautiful and precious. I yanked my hand back like I'd been burned. Holy shit! Hyunwoo's eyes had gone dark, his pupils blown wide. What did you see? Everything. Not words, but feelings. Memories. You were thinking about... I couldn't finish that sentence. Couldn't admit what I'd felt in his thoughts. About you, he finished quietly. I was thinking about you. About how we nearly lost you tonight before we even knew we'd found you. Found me? You just met me. Did we? Jinwoo stood, moving closer with that graceful fluidity that suggested dancer. Training. Because it feels like we've been looking for you a lot longer than that. That's just gratitude talking. Or maybe guilt because I'm in danger because of your daughter. Is that what you think this is? Minho's voice carried disbelief. Taeyang, you read Hyunwoo's mind. You felt what he was feeling. Did any of that feel like guilt? No. It had felt like want and need and claiming instinct. It had felt like things I didn't have words for and definitely didn't deserve. I don't understand what's happening, I admitted. Any of this. The mind-reading thing, the way you're all looking at me, why someone powerful enough to hire mercenaries wants me gone. None of it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Hyunwoo's hand lifted to my face, hovering just shy of contact. May I? I nodded, not trusting my voice. His fingers traced my cheekbone with reverence that made my chest ache. You have a gift, Taeyang. Telepathy, mind reading, whatever you want to call it. That kind of power is incredibly rare. In the entire supernatural community, maybe a dozen people worldwide have it. A dozen out of millions. Exactly. His thumb brushed my jaw. And it tends to manifest in bloodlines with ancient magic. Royal bloodlines. The implication hit me like cold water. I'm not royal. I'm nobody. My parents were just ordinary people who died in a car crash. Are you sure about that? Jinwoo asked gently. Because ordinary people don't produce omega children with telepathic abilities. Maybe it's a mutation. Or maybe I hit my head harder than I thought, and I'm hallucinating all of this. You're not hallucinating, Minho's voice was firm. And I don't think this is new, Taeyang. I think you've been doing this your whole life without realizing it. Reading people's intentions. Sensing danger before it happens. Knowing who to trust and who to avoid. I opened my mouth to argue, then stopped. Because he was right. I'd always had instincts that went beyond normal omega senses. Always knew when someone was lying. Always felt danger before it manifested. I'd just assumed everyone could do that. So what? I'm some kind of secret telepath who didn't know it? That's insane. So is an omega with no training taking down 3 alpha rogues, Hyunwoo pointed out. So is moving faster than you should be able to. So is surviving 7 years on Seoul streets without pack protection. You've been exceptional your whole life, Taeyang. You just convinced yourself you weren't. Because exceptional gets you killed in my neighborhood. You're not in your neighborhood anymore. His hand cupped my face fully now, warm and grounding. You're here, with us, and we protect what's ours. I'm not yours. Aren't you? His eyes searched mine. Then why did you risk everything for our daughter? Why are you still here instead of running? Why does your scent calm when we're close and spike with distress when we leave? Because I was broken and desperate and so starved for connection that I'd latch on to anyone who showed me basic kindness. But I couldn't say that out loud. Biology, I said instead. Omega instinct responding to alpha presence. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't it? Jinwoo moved to my other side, creating a bracket of alpha warmth. Try reading Minho, see what you find. I already violated one person's privacy tonight. I'm good. It's not violation if we're asking. Minho held out his hand, mirroring Hyunwoo's earlier gesture. Please, I want you to see. The please destroyed my defenses. I took his hand, skin to skin, and reached again. Minho's mind was different from Hyunwoo's. Where Hyunwoo was controlled winter, Minho was banked fire. Passion held in check by iron discipline. And the emotions were similar but distinct. Protectiveness tinged with wonder. Desire wrapped in concern. And that same sense of rightness. Of finding something he'd been missing without knowing what to call it. I saw myself through his eyes. Not pathetic or broken, but strong and brave and beautiful in ways that had nothing to do with physical appearance. Saw how he'd watched me eat his jjigae with fierce satisfaction. How he'd wanted to gather me close when I'd stumbled. How he'd felt his world shift when I'd smiled despite my fear. I broke contact, breathing hard. Stop. Both of you stop looking at me like that. Like what? Minho asked, his voice rough. Like I'm something precious. Like I matter. I don't know how to handle that. Then learn. Jinwoo's hand found my shoulder, steady and warm. Because we're not going anywhere, and neither are you. Not if we have anything to say about it. A knock on the door interrupted whatever I might have said. Hyunwoo moved to answer it with predatory grace, and Captain Nam entered with a tablet and grim expression. Your Majesty, we've completed the initial interrogation of the mercenary. And he confirms Seo Minji hired him. But there's more. Nam's eyes flicked to me. The contract wasn't just for information gathering, it was for acquisition. She wanted the Omega brought to her alive and unharmed. I slid down my spine. Why? That's the interesting part. Nam pulled up something on his tablet. We found communications on the mercenary's encrypted drive. Seo Minji believes you're connected to the Lee bloodline, one of the oldest royal families in Korean supernatural history. That's impossible. My parents were Park, not Lee. Your mother was Park So-hee, yes, but we ran genetic markers from the blood sample Dr. Yoon took earlier. Nam hesitated. Taeyang, your maternal grandmother, was Lee Jia. She disappeared 30 years ago after being declared a traitor to the crown. Her daughter, your mother, was hidden in the adoption system under a false name. The world tilted sideways. My mother was adopted? Yes, and she apparently never told you about your true heritage? Nam's expression was sympathetic. The Lee family had powerful telepathic abilities. They served as royal advisors and strategists for centuries, until they were accused of attempting to manipulate the throne and were systematically eliminated. Eliminated? You mean murdered? Yes. Hyunwoo's voice was tight with anger. By order of the previous king, my grandfather. The pieces were clicking together in horrible ways. So Seo Minji thinks I'm some kind of threat because of bloodline politics from before I was born? She thinks you're a weapon, Nam corrected. A telepath with royal blood who could potentially challenge her claim to power. She wants to control you before you become a threat. I'm not a threat to anyone. I just want to survive. Your survival is the threat, Jinwoo said quietly. Because you existing proves the Lee bloodline wasn't completely destroyed. And if word gets out that a Lee telepath is alive and bonded to the ruling triad, it changes the political landscape entirely, Hyunwoo finished. It validates our rule in ways that pure alpha dominance can't match. Historically, the most powerful rulers have always been alpha telepath partnerships. I laughed, but it came out broken. So what? I went from invisible street Omega to secret royal weapon in one night? That's insane. That's politics. Minho's hand found mine, squeezing gently. And you're not a weapon. You're a person who deserves safety and choice and a life that doesn't involve constantly looking over your shoulder. Can't have that if people want to kidnap or kill me. Which is why you stay here, Hyunwoo said firmly. Protected. Safe. With us. For how long? Forever. Until the political situation resolves. That could take years. Or it could take weeks, Jinwoo countered. Seo Minji made a mistake tonight. She showed her hand too early. Now we know what she wants and why. That gives us leverage. Captain Nam cleared his throat. There's one more thing. The mercenary mentioned that Seo Minji wasn't working alone. She has allies. Powerful ones. People who believe the throne should pass to a single alpha bloodline without Omega influence. How many allies? At least a dozen major families. Maybe more. Nam's expression was grave. This isn't just about one woman's ambition. This is about a fundamental disagreement over how the supernatural community should be governed. And I'm caught in the middle because of genetics I didn't know I had. Yes, Hyunwoo knelt before me, bringing us eye to eye. But you're not alone in the middle. We're with you, all three of us, and we have resources and allies of our own. Why? The question burst out before I could stop it. Why risk a political war for me? You barely know me. We know enough. His hand covered mine where it still gripped Minho's. We know you're brave and sarcastic and stronger than you give yourself credit for. We know you saved our daughter without expecting anything in return. We know your touch feels like home. That's just omega biology responding to alpha presence. Is it? He smiled, sad and soft. Then why do I feel the same way? I didn't have an answer for that. Didn't have an answer for any of this. Captain Nam excused himself, leaving us in loaded silence. I sat there on the bed, surrounded by three alpha kings who looked at me like I was precious, while my entire understanding of my identity crumbled and reformed into something I didn't recognize. I need air, I said abruptly, or space, or something that isn't this room and these feelings and all of you looking at me like that. The balcony, Jinwoo suggested, gesturing to glass doors I hadn't noticed. It's secure and private. I stood on shaky legs and moved to the doors. They opened onto a balcony that overlooked Seoul's glittering sprawl. The city I'd lived in for years, invisible and alone. Now it looked different, smaller somehow, less overwhelming, or maybe I'd just grown. Footsteps behind me announced Minho's presence. He didn't touch, just stood close enough that I could feel his warmth. Talk to me, he said quietly. About what? How my entire life was a lie? How my mother apparently hid my heritage because telling me would have gotten me killed? How I went from having nothing to suddenly being some kind of political pawn? About how you're feeling. I laughed, sharp and bitter. I'm terrified, angry, confused. And underneath all of that, there's this horrible, desperate hope that maybe for once in my life, I actually matter to someone. You matter. His hand found my shoulder, gentle. To Seoyeon, who hasn't stopped asking about you. To the three of us who keep finding excuses to check on you. To yourself, even if you don't want to admit it yet. Mattering gets people hurt. Mattering gets people killed. Hiding keeps you alive but hollow. He turned me gently to face him. Is that what you want? To survive but never live? I don't know what I want. The admission felt like failure. I've spent so long just trying to make it to tomorrow that I never thought about what comes after. Then think about it now. His eyes searched mine. What do you want, Taeyang? Really want, not what you think you deserve or what seems practical. What does your heart want? The answer rose up before I could stop it. I want to matter. I want to be seen. I want someone to choose me, not because I'm useful or because they feel obligated, but because they want me. My voice cracked. I want to stop being so damn lonely. Then stop pushing us away. He cupped my face with both hands, his touch infinitely gentle. We're choosing you. We saw you in that alley, brave and bleeding and beautiful, and something in all three of us recognized you, wanted you, needed you. You don't even know me. Then let us learn. His forehead touched mine, and his scent wrapped around me like safety. Let us see all the parts you've hidden. Let us prove that you're worth choosing, worth keeping, worth everything. I stood there trembling, caught between terror and hope, while Seoul sparkled below and three alphas waited inside for an answer I didn't know how to give. Because saying yes meant risking everything, meant believing I deserved good things, meant letting people close enough to destroy me. But saying no meant going back to invisible, to lonely, to surviving instead of living. And I was so tired of just surviving. Okay, I whispered. Okay, I'll stay. I'll try. But if this goes wrong, if you decide I'm not worth the trouble, you have to promise to let me go cleanly. No guilt, no obligation. Just let me disappear. Deal. His smile was sad. Though you should know we have no intention of letting you go. Ever. You're ours now, Taeyang. Whether you accept that or not. Possessive much? You have no idea. He kissed my forehead, soft and sweet. Now come inside before Hyunwoo gives himself an ulcer, worrying about balcony security. We went back inside to find Hyunwoo exactly where we'd left him, studying security feeds with intense focus, while Jinwoo had claimed the bed and was patting the space beside him invitingly. Sleep, Jinwoo said firmly. We'll watch. You're safe here. I wanted to argue, wanted to maintain independence, but exhaustion was crashing over me in waves and the bed looked impossibly comfortable, and these three alphas were looking at me like I was something precious they'd almost lost. So I climbed onto the bed, still on top of the covers because I had some boundaries left, and let my eyes close. The last thing I felt before sleep took me was Jin Woo's hand finding mine, warm and steady, and anchoring me to something that felt dangerously close to home. Sleep came, but it wasn't peaceful. I dreamed of a woman I'd never met but somehow recognized. She had my eyes, my jawline, my hands. She was running through Seoul streets, clutching a bundle to her chest, while shadows chased her with hungry intent. "Hide," she whispered to the bundle. To me. "Hide what you are. Hide until it's safe." But when is it safe, I wanted to ask. When do I stop hiding? The dream shifted. The woman was older now, wearing a wedding ring and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was talking to a man, my father maybe, his face blurred by time and loss. "They can't know," she said urgently. "If they find out what he is, what's in his blood, they'll take him. Or worse." "Then we keep him ordinary," the man replied. "We keep him safe." Safe. That word again. Like safety and invisibility were the same thing. The dream fragmented. I saw fire, heard screaming, felt the moment my parents' car left the road, and something in me reached out instinctively, trying to stop it, trying to save them. But 7-year-old me didn't know how to use power I didn't understand. Didn't know that the telepathy burning through my bloodline could have warned them, could have prevented everything. I'd felt their last thoughts, terror and love and fierce protectiveness, and a final wish whispered into the void. Keep him hidden. Keep him safe. I woke with a gasp, my face wet with tears I didn't remember shedding. Jinwoo's hand was still in mine. He was asleep now, his soft features peaceful in the dim light. On my other side, Minho had claimed the bed at some point, his presence solid and grounding. Hyunwoo sat in the chair by the window, awake and watchful, his winter eyes catching the movement when I stirred. "Bad dream?" he asked quietly. "Memory, I think, or something close to it." I wiped at my face with my free hand. My parents, the accident, I felt them die, and I didn't even remember until just now. Hyunwoo moved to the bed, settling on the edge with careful precision. Trauma has a way of hiding things until we're ready to process them. "I'm not ready. I'll never be ready for any of this." "And yet here you are." His hand found my face, thumb brushing away a stray tear. "Surviving, adapting, being remarkably brave about circumstances that would break most people." "I don't feel brave. I feel like I'm drowning and pretending I know how to swim." "That's what bravery is, drowning but swimming anyway." He smiled, small and sad. "You think we're not terrified? That we know what we're doing? You're alpha kings. You literally rule the supernatural community. I assume you have some idea. We're three people who bonded because alone we were disasters, and together we're slightly more functional disasters." His voice carried warmth despite the self-deprecation. "We argue about whose turn it is to do paperwork. Minho stress bakes at 3 a.m. Jinwoo cries at animated movies. We're not perfect, Taeyang. We're just trying our best with what we have." The honesty of that hit something soft in my chest. "You stress bake?" "Hyunwoo stress exercises," Minho mumbled without opening his eyes. "Did 100 push-ups at 4 a.m. because someone sent a strongly worded email about tax policy." "It was a very strongly worded email," Hyunwoo defended. "It called your reforms misguided." Jinwoo's eyes cracked open, amusement dancing in them. "You did push-ups about the word misguided. I have feelings about proper governance." I laughed despite everything, and the sound surprised me. When was the last time I'd laughed? Really laughed, not bitter or sarcastic, but genuine. "There it is," Minho said softly, his eyes opening fully to look at me. That smile. I was starting to think we'd never see it. "Don't get used to it. My natural state is vaguely disgruntled." "We like vaguely disgruntled." Jinwoo sat up, his hair adorably mussed. "It's honest. Most people who meet us are either terrified or trying too hard to impress. You just told Hyunwoo his stress exercising was ridiculous." "I didn't say that." "You were thinking it very loudly," Hyunwoo said dryly. "I could tell." "That's not how telepathy works, I think." "I don't actually know how it works." "Then we'll figure it out together." Minho's hand found my other shoulder, creating a bracket of warmth between him and Jinwoo. Starting with breakfast, because I can hear your stomach complaining from here. Traitor stomach, I muttered. When did you last eat something that wasn't jjigae or stress? Does coffee count as food? Three identical expressions of disapproval told me coffee very much did not count as food. That's what I thought. Minho stood with fluid grace. I'm making breakfast, real breakfast, with protein and vegetables and things that will make you less likely to pass out. I don't pass out. You nearly passed out twice last night. That was adrenaline crash, not hunger. Taeyang. His voice carried fond exasperation. Let us feed you, please. It's the only thing we can control right now. And if we can't protect you from political conspiracies, at least we can protect you from malnutrition. The pleas destroyed my defenses again. Fine, but nothing fancy. I can't handle fancy right now. Understood. He headed for the door, then paused. How do you feel about pancakes? Pancakes are acceptable. Good, because I make excellent pancakes. He left with the confidence of someone who knew exactly how excellent his pancakes were. Hyunwoo's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something in his expression shifted. Captain Nam has new information. I need to take this. He stepped out onto the balcony, and I was left alone with Jinwoo, who was watching me with those soft eyes that saw too much. You're not okay, he observed. Very astute. Did the crying give it away? The way you're holding yourself, like you're waiting for the next disaster. He shifted closer, and I became acutely aware that we were still on the bed, still touching, still breathing the same air. You're allowed to not be okay, Taeyang. You don't have to perform strength for us. If I stop performing strength, I'll fall apart, and I really can't afford to fall apart right now. Why not? We'll catch you. The simple certainty in his voice made my throat tight. You don't know that. You don't know if I'm worth catching. I know that you saved our daughter. I know that you've survived 7 years alone in a city that eats people like you alive. I know that you're sitting here terrified and exhausted and still making jokes about stress exercising. His hand cupped my face with devastating gentleness. That's worth catching. You're worth catching. You barely know me. Then let me know you better. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. Let me learn all the parts you think aren't worth knowing. What if there's nothing worth learning? What if I'm just survival instinct and sarcasm wrapped in trauma? Then I'll learn to love survival instinct and sarcasm. His smile was soft. Though I suspect there's a lot more to you than that. Like what? Telepathy I can't control and bloodline drama I didn't ask for? Like kindness despite cruelty, hope despite evidence. The ability to make me laugh about tax policy emails. His forehead touched mine. You're more than your circumstances, Taeyang. More than what was done to you. You're what you chose to become despite it all. I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process kindness that felt genuine instead of obligatory. So I did what I always did when emotions got too big. I deflected. You really cry at animated movies? He pulled back, laughing. Minho exaggerates. So you don't cry? I get emotionally invested in well-crafted storytelling. There's a difference. Uh-huh. What movie? It doesn't matter. It totally matters. Was it the robot one? With the waste management unit and the plant? His silence was damning. Oh my God, you cried at the robot movie. It was emotionally manipulative, and I have feelings about environmental collapse. You cried because the robots held hands. They were in love, and I'm a romantic. Sue me. But he was smiling, warm and genuine. Besides, Minho sobbed during the one about the musician and the land of the dead. I had legitimate concerns about family legacy and generational trauma. Minho called from somewhere down the hall. You went through an entire box of tissues. It was a very emotional film. I laughed again, and it felt easier this time. Less like forcing something broken to work and more like remembering how. Hunwoo returned from the balcony, his expression carefully neutral in the way that suggested very non-neutral news. What? I asked. Captain Nam traced the source of the leaked information about your location. Someone in the palace staff has been feeding intelligence to Seominji. Ice slid down my spine. Someone inside? Yes. We don't know who yet, but we're investigating. He sat on the bed's edge, his winter eyes serious. which means until we identify the leak, nowhere in the palace is completely secure, including here. So what? I'm trapped in a gilded cage that might have traitors lurking around every corner. Fantastic. Love that for me. We're moving you, Jinwoo said. Somewhere completely off the grid. A safe house only the three of us know about. When? Within the hour. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened. Seo Minji is escalating. The mercenary was just the opening move. Captain Nam intercepted communications, suggesting she's planning something larger, more public. Like what? Like discrediting you publicly, claiming you're a fraud trying to manipulate the royal family for personal gain, or worse, claiming you're a threat that needs to be eliminated for public safety. My stomach dropped. She's going to turn public opinion against me. She's going to try. Minho appeared in the doorway carrying a tray that smelled like heaven, which is why we're disappearing you before she can make her move. Let her scramble to find a target that's not where she expects. He set the tray on the bed. Pancakes, fresh fruit, scrambled eggs, and what looked like homemade kimchi. My stomach made embarrassing noises. Eat, he commanded gently. Then pack whatever you want to bring. We leave in 40 minutes. I don't have anything to pack. Remember, everything I own fits in a backpack that's currently in Guro. Then we'll get you new things. Hyunwoo stood, already moving into planning mode. Clothes, toiletries, whatever you need. But right now, eat. You'll need your strength. I picked up a fork because arguing seemed pointless, and the pancakes were calling my name. The first bite was perfect. Fluffy, slightly sweet, with just enough salt to balance. These are really good, I admitted. I know. Minho's smile was smug. I'm an excellent cook. And so humble about it. Humility is overrated. I ate while they moved around the room with practiced efficiency. Hyunwoo coordinated with security. Jinwoo packed an overnight bag with things I assumed were theirs. Minho disappeared and returned with clothes in my approximate size. It should have felt overwhelming. Should have triggered every instinct I had about maintaining independence and not relying on anyone. Instead, it felt safe, like being part of something instead of struggling alone. I was halfway through my second pancake when Seo-yeon appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas, her hair mussed from sleep. Papa Minho said you're leaving, she said, her voice small. Just for a little while, I told her, setting down my fork. There are some people who want to cause trouble, and your dads think it's safer if I'm somewhere else for now. But you'll come back? The hope in her voice nearly destroyed me. Yeah, kiddo, I'll come back. Promise? I looked at the three alphas, who were watching this interaction with expressions ranging from tender to protective to something I couldn't name. I promise, I said, and meant it. She ran to me, throwing small arms around my neck in a hug that smelled like lavender shampoo and innocence. I'm glad you're staying. You make Papa Hyunwoo smile more, and Papa Jinwoo doesn't look sad as much. And Papa Minho hums when he cooks now. Does he? I looked at Minho, who had the grace to look embarrassed. Occasionally, when the mood strikes. He never hummed before you came, Seo-yeon said seriously. I think he was lonely. We were all lonely, Jinwoo said quietly, kneeling beside her. But Taeyang's helping with that. Good. She pulled back, looking at me with brown eyes that held too much wisdom for 6 years old. Because you looked lonely too, in the alley, like you needed someone to save you for once. The observation hit like a physical blow. This child had been terrified, threatened, nearly killed, and she'd still noticed my loneliness. Maybe I did, I admitted. Maybe I still do. Then it's good you found us. She kissed my cheek with the unself-conscious affection of childhood. We're good at saving people. A guard appeared to escort her back to her rooms, and she went with one last wave that made my chest ache. She's incredible, I said. She gets that from us, Minho said, absolutely shameless. She gets that from surviving 4 assassination attempts and still believing in goodness, Hyunwoo corrected. Though yes, we're also incredible. Your humility is truly inspiring. We're Alpha Kings, Taeyang. Humility isn't really in the job description. I finished eating while they finalized preparations. Captain Nam arrived with updates that involved a lot of security jargon I didn't understand. Staff came and went with the kind of efficiency that suggested this wasn't their first emergency relocation. And through it all, I sat on a bed worth more than my life used to be, wearing borrowed clothes, eating homemade pancakes, and trying to process how thoroughly my world had changed in less than 12 hours. Ready? Hyunwoo asked finally. I looked at the room that had been mine for exactly one night, at the three alphas who'd somehow become central to my existence in that time, at the future I couldn't predict but was choosing anyway. No, I said honestly, but let's go anyway. Jinwoo smiled. That's the spirit. We left through a passage I hadn't known existed, downstairs that seemed endless, into a garage full of vehicles that probably cost more than small countries. The SUV we climbed into was armored, tinted, and utterly anonymous. Hyunwoo drove. Minho took the passenger seat. Jinwoo sat beside me in the back, his hand finding mine like it belonged there. Seoul slid past the windows as we left the palace grounds, the city waking to a day that would probably involve news about an Omega who'd saved a princess and sparked a political firestorm. But for now, I was just Taeyang, broken and scared and choosing hope anyway. And maybe that was enough. The thought barely had time to settle before Hyunwoo's phone erupted with incoming calls. He silenced the first three, but the fourth made him curse in a way that suggested things had just gotten significantly worse. What? Minho asked, tension radiating from his shoulders. News leak. Someone released footage of last night's alley incident. Hyunwoo's jaw was tight enough to crack stone. It's already trending on every social media platform in Korea. My stomach dropped. Footage? What footage? Security camera from a nearby building. It shows you fighting the rogues. Shows Seo-yeon calling you brave. Shows us arriving and treating you with what the comments are calling unusual familiarity for an unaffiliated Omega. Let me guess. People have opinions. People always have opinions. Jinwoo pulled out his own phone, scrolling with increasingly dark expression. Half are calling you a hero. The other half are calling you an opportunist who staged the whole thing. Staged? I laughed, but it came out bitter. Right, because I definitely hired rogues to attack a child I'd never met just so I could get 15 minutes of fame and a target on my back. That's exactly how my brain works. The narrative Seo Minji's people are pushing is that you knew who Seo-yeon was, Minho said, his voice tight with controlled anger. That you orchestrated the attack to position yourself as a savior and gain access to the royal family. That's insane. How would I even know what she looked like? I live in Guro district, not palace watching distance. Logic doesn't matter when conspiracy theories are more entertaining. Hyunwoo took a turn sharply enough that I grabbed Jinwoo's arm for balance. They're painting you as a social climber with delusions of grandeur. Well, they're half right. I definitely have delusions, though they're usually about having enough money for rent. This isn't funny, Taeyang. I know. I'm just trying not to panic. I looked at Jinwoo's phone, at the comments scrolling past faster than I could read. But I caught enough. Gold digger, fraud, Omega trash. Someone even suggested I should be arrested for child endangerment. How bad is it? Manageable, Hyunwoo said, but his white knuckles on the steering wheel suggested otherwise. We'll issue a statement, clarify the facts. Captain Nam is already pulling additional security footage that shows the rogues stalking Seo-yeon before you arrived. And if that doesn't work, then we deal with it. Minho turned in his seat to look at me. Together, you're not facing this alone. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. I almost didn't answer, but something made me slide to accept. Min Taeyang speaking. You should have taken my first offer. The voice from the threatening call last night, smooth and cultured, and absolutely certain of its superiority. Now things get messy. Who are you? Someone who's about to make your life very difficult. The news leak? That's just the opening act. By tomorrow, every person in Seoul will know your name, your face, your complete lack of qualifications for associating with royalty. Is there a point to this villain monologue, or are you just really into the sound of your own voice? A pause, then a low chuckle. I like you, Omega. It's almost a shame. A shame about what? About what comes next. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, ice spreading through my veins. Taeyang, Jinwoo's hand found my shoulder. What's wrong? Another call. Same person as last night. He said the news leak is just the opening act. I looked up at three increasingly furious alpha faces. What comes next? Nothing good. Hyunwoo's phone rang again. He answered on speaker. Captain Nam, tell me you have something. Multiple things, none good. Nam's voice was grim. First, the palace insider feeding information to Seo Minji has been identified. It's Jung Eunbi, one of the household staff. She's been transferring funds to an offshore account for 3 months. Arrest her. Already done. But there's more. We found documents in her quarters. Plans for a coordinated media campaign against Taeyang. They're planning to release his full background within hours. School records, employment history, medical files. Everything. My entire body went cold. Medical files? They have documentation of your hospital visits. The times you came in with injuries that should have been reported but weren't. The malnutrition diagnoses. The suspected abuse markers that were noted but never followed up on. They're going to make me look like a victim. My voice came out hollow. Like someone so desperate for stability that I'd do anything to escape my circumstances, including staging a rescue. Yes, Nam didn't sugarcoat it. They're building a narrative of an Omega so damaged by poverty that he became opportunistic. Dangerous even. How do we counter that? Minho demanded. We don't, I heard myself say, because fighting it makes it look like we're hiding something. And fighting victim narratives just makes you look defensive. So we do nothing? Hunwoo's voice carried disbelief. We do the opposite. We own it. I sat forward, my mind racing through possibilities. They want to paint me as a desperate Omega? Fine. Let them. But desperate people don't risk their lives for strangers. Desperate people run. I fought. Taeyang, Jinwoo started. No, listen. The medical records prove I've been surviving impossible circumstances for years. The employment history shows I worked 3 jobs just to afford a roof and food. The school records show I finished high school despite having no support system. I look between them. That's not the profile of a con artist. That's the profile of someone who refuses to quit even when quitting would be easier. Silence stretched. Then Hyunwoo's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, but held grim approval. You're right. We don't hide your past. We highlight it. Show that you've been extraordinary your whole life. You just didn't have anyone noticing. Exactly. And when they release the telepathy thing, because they will, we frame it as exactly what it is. Rare ability you didn't know you had, from a bloodline you didn't know existed, manifesting under extreme stress to protect a child. They'll call you dangerous, Nam warned. Unknown Omega with mind-reading abilities? That terrifies people. Good, let them be scared. Scared people make mistakes. I pulled out my own phone. How fast can you get me in front of a camera? Taeyang, no. Minho turned fully around, his expression alarmed. You're not doing a press conference. You're not trained for that kind of exposure. I've been surviving Seoul streets for 7 years. I think I can handle some reporters. Reporters will eat you alive, Jinwoo said. They'll twist everything you say, take things out of context, make you look worse. Then I'll give them nothing to twist. I met 3 pairs of worried eyes. Look, Seo Minji is controlling the narrative because she got ahead of us. The only way to take that power back is to tell my story first, on my terms, in my words. It's risky, Hyunwoo said carefully. Everything about this situation is risky. At least this way I'm taking action instead of hiding and hoping things get better. The SUV fell silent, except for the hum of engine and tires on pavement. We left Seoul proper now, heading into mountains where the city's lights faded to forest darkness. If we do this, Hyunwoo said finally, we do it right. Professional media team, prepared statements, and you don't go in alone. Meaning? Meaning we sit beside you. Make it clear you're under our protection, that attacking you is attacking us. That'll just fuel speculation about improper relationships. Let it. Minho's voice was fierce. We're not hiding what you mean to us. You barely know me. We know enough. Jinwoo's hand found mine again. And we're claiming you publicly, whether you're ready or not. Because if Seo Minji wants a political fight, she's about to learn what happens when you threaten what's ours. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared me. Instead, it made something warm unfurl in my chest. Okay, I said. We do a press conference. But I lead. I tell my story. You three just sit there and look imposing. We're excellent at looking imposing, Minho said. It's basically our default state, Hyunwoo agreed. The safe house appeared ahead, hidden so thoroughly in mountain forest that I almost missed it. Modern architecture disguised as natural landscape, all glass and steel and strategic positioning. We pulled into an underground garage that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. Concrete walls, reinforced doors, lighting that suggested this place could withstand a siege. Home sweet, heavily fortified home, I muttered. It's secure, Hyunwoo said, killing the engine. No staff, no security cameras. No way for anyone to track us here. Just us. Just us. The words settled heavy with implication. We climbed out of the SUV into temperature-controlled air that smelled like stone and safety. Minho led the way through corridors that felt more bunker than house until we emerged into an open-plan living space that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking mountain forest. Furniture that managed to be both comfortable and clearly expensive. A kitchen that would make any chef weep. And everywhere the scent of the three alphas woven together so thoroughly that my omega biology basically purred. This is your idea of a safe house? I asked. We like our comfort even in crisis situations, Jinwoo said unapologetically. Besides, we might be here for days. Might as well not be miserable. My phone buzzed. Text from Mireille, the convenience store cashier. They're saying terrible things about you on the news. Don't read the comments. You did a good thing. Don't let them make you doubt that. Something in my chest cracked. One person, one single person from my old life who saw me as human instead of opportunity or threat, I typed back. Thank you. That means more than you know. Taeyang, Hyunwoo's voice pulled me from my phone. We need to talk about security protocols while we're here. Let me guess. Don't open the door for strangers. Don't wander into the forest alone. Don't trust anyone who isn't you three? Essentially, yes. He moved to a panel on the wall, pulling up displays that showed camera feeds from around the property. This place is designed to be completely self-sufficient. We have supplies for 2 weeks, independent power and water, and enough weapons to outfit a small army. Weapons? Just in case. Minho was already in the kitchen, pulling out ingredients with the focused intent of someone about to stress bake. Though hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully. I sank into a sofa that felt like sitting on a cloud. So what's the actual plan? We hide here while you organize a press conference? We strategize here, Hyunwoo corrected. Captain Nam is assembling a media team. They'll prep you on likely questions, help you craft responses that are honest but strategic. We'll also work with you on controlling your telepathy so you don't accidentally broadcast thoughts during the interview. I can broadcast thoughts? Potentially. Telepathy is a two-way street. If you're not careful, people can feel your emotions bleeding through, especially strong emotions like fear or anger. Great, just great, as if I wasn't stressed enough. When's the press conference? Tomorrow morning, prime viewing time. We hit hard and fast before Seo Minji can adapt her strategy. Hyunwoo's winter eyes met mine. Are you sure about this? Once you go public, there's no taking it back. I've been invisible my whole life. Being seen, even if people don't like what they see, is still better than disappearing. You're not disappearing. Jinwoo sat beside me, close enough that our legs touched. Not anymore. Not ever. The conviction in his voice made me want to believe him. Want to believe that 3 alpha kings could actually keep someone like me safe from people with resources and power and political motivation. But I'd learned young that wanting something didn't make it real. How many times has Seo Minji tried to kill Seo Yeon? I asked abruptly. Hyunwoo's expression shuddered. We told you, 5 times including last night. Tell me about the others. Why? Because I need to know what we're actually dealing with, what she's capable of, what she's willing to do. I looked between them. And because if I'm going to stand in front of cameras and paint a target on myself, I want to know exactly how big that target is. They exchanged looks that suggested an entire conversation happening in the space between heartbeats. Fine, Minho said finally, abandoning his ingredients to join us. But you're not going to like it. I already don't like any of this. Start talking. So they did. And with every word, I understood exactly how deep into darkness I'd stepped. The first attempt was poison, Hyunwoo said, his voice carrying the careful control of someone discussing nightmares while pretending they were just bad dreams. Seo Yeon was 3. Someone contaminated her food with something that should have killed her within hours. My stomach turned. Should have. She has an extremely rare metabolism, processes toxins faster than normal. The doctors said it was a miracle. His jaw tightened. We said it was luck, but we increased security after that. Didn't help with attempt 2, Minho added, his hands clenching into fists. Kidnapping from the palace gardens. Seo Yeon was 4. She was playing with her guards watching, and then she just wasn't there. Vanished like she'd never existed. How did you find her? We didn't. She found her way back. Jinwoo's voice held wonder, mixed with remembered terror. Walked through the palace gates 3 days later, covered in dirt and scratches, saying the bad people had been mean, but she'd escaped when they were sleeping. A 4-year-old escaped trained kidnappers? She's remarkable. Pride warred with pain in Hyunwoo's expression. And that's what makes her a target. She's not just our heir. She's proof that our bonded triad can produce exceptional offspring. That challenges a lot of traditional power structures. Attempt 3 was a car accident, Minho continued, his voice going flat. Seo Yeon was 5. Her transport was forced off a mountain road. The driver died. 2 guards died. She survived with a broken arm because she'd been strapped into a car seat designed to withstand impacts that would kill adults. I felt sick. And attempt 4? Fire. Jinwoo's soft features had gone hard. Someone set the east wing ablaze while she slept. We got her out, but barely. She had smoke inhalation, nightmares for months, still won't sleep without a light on. That's why she was in your room last night, I realized. Not just because she wanted to see me, because your room feels safer. Yes, Hyunwoo's winter eyes held mine. Every attempt has made her more cautious, more aware that people want her dead. She's 6 years old and she checks her food for poison. She won't get in cars without personally inspecting them first. She's terrified of fire. And last night in that alley was attempt 5. My voice came out hollow. They were going to kill her. Or worse. Worse, Minho confirmed grimly. The rogues weren't instructed to kill immediately. They were supposed to take her somewhere remote, make it look like she'd run away and gotten lost, then eliminate her in a way that looked like accident or animal attack. How do you know that? Because we interrogated the rogues thoroughly. The way, Hyunwoo said thoroughly, suggested methods I didn't want details about. And because Seo Minji has a pattern, she doesn't just want Seo Yun dead, she wants it to look like tragedy instead of murder. Maintains plausible deniability while removing the obstacle to her daughter's succession. I sat there processing horror layered on horror. A 6-year-old child who'd survived 5 assassination attempts, 3 alpha kings who'd had to watch their daughter be targeted repeatedly, and me, the idiot who'd stumbled into the middle of it because I couldn't walk past a crying child. Why are you telling me this? I asked finally. Why not just let me think it was random violence? Because you deserve to know what you're fighting, Jinwoo said quietly. Seo Minji isn't going to stop with discrediting you. If she sees you as a threat, if she thinks you're becoming important to us, she'll try to eliminate you the same way she's tried to eliminate Seo Yeon. Great. So I've graduated from invisible nobody to assassination target. My life trajectory is really inspiring. This isn't a joke. Minho's voice carried an edge. You could die, Taeyang. We're trying to prevent that, but we need you to understand the actual stakes. I understand perfectly. Powerful people want me gone because I'm inconvenient. That's not new. I've just moved up to more expensive assassins. You're not taking this seriously. I'm taking it exactly as seriously as I can without having a complete breakdown. I stood, needing movement, needing air, needing something that wasn't their worried faces and the weight of knowing a child had been poisoned, kidnapped, and burned because of political ambition. You want me to be scared? I'm terrified. You want me to hide? I've been hiding my whole life, and it never made me safer. So excuse me if I'm handling existential danger with sarcasm, because it's either that or screaming. Silence fell like snow. Then Hyunwoo moved, crossing the distance between us with predatory grace, and pulled me into his arms. I stiffened, every instinct screaming that accepting comfort was weakness, that letting people close gave them power to hurt you. But his scent wrapped around me like safety, and his arms were solid and warm, and I was so tired of being strong alone. I let myself sag against him, just for a moment, just long enough to remember what it felt like to be held. "You're allowed to be scared," he murmured against my hair. "You're allowed to not be okay. You don't have to perform strength for us." Jinwoo said the same thing. "Because it's true." His hand stroked down my spine, gentle and grounding. "We're not asking you to be fearless. We're asking you to let us help carry the fear." "I don't know how to do that." "Then we'll teach you." Minho's voice came from behind me, and then his presence was there too, solid and warm at my back. "Step 1. Stop pretending you're fine when you're falling apart." "I'm not falling apart." "Your hands are shaking," Jinwoo observed, joining the bizarre alpha huddle that was apparently happening. "Your heart rate is through the roof, and you're about 3 seconds from either crying or bolting." "I don't cry." "Everyone cries." "Not me. Crying is for people who have the luxury of falling apart. I had to stay functional." "Past tense," Hyunwoo said firmly. "Had to. Not anymore. Now you have us." The certainty in his voice made something crack in my chest, because I wanted to believe it, wanted to believe that 3 people I barely knew could actually become safe harbor instead of another temporary stop on my journey through loneliness. But believing meant risking, and I'd been hurt enough times to know that risk and stupidity were often the same thing. "What if you change your minds?" The question came out smaller than I intended. "What if you decide I'm too much trouble, or the political situation gets too complicated, or you just get tired of dealing with damaged omegas who don't know how to accept help?" "Not possible," Minho said. "You don't know that. I know that the moment you stepped into that alley, something in all 3 of us recognized you, wanted you, needed you." His hand found my shoulder, warm through borrowed clothes. "I know that watching you fight rogues while bleeding and terrified was the most beautiful and terrifying thing I've ever seen. I know that you make Hyunwoo laugh about tax policy and Jinwoo cry about robots. And you make me want to cook for someone besides my bonded mates for the first time in years. That's just novelty. It'll fade." "Will it?" Jinwoo's voice held gentle challenge. "Because we've had decades to get tired of each other, and we're still finding new reasons to fall more in love. What makes you think you're any less worthy of that kind of commitment?" I didn't have an answer, didn't have words for the tangle of hope and fear and desperate longing that was currently strangling my ability to think. So I did what I'd done in the alley. I reached, not physically but mentally, extending that strange telepathic sense toward all 3 of them at once. And what I found nearly broke me. Hyunwoo's fierce protectiveness mixed with vulnerability he showed no one else. His fear that he couldn't keep everyone safe. His certainty that I was worth any risk. Minho's passion barely contained beneath calm exterior. His need to nurture and protect. His wonder at finding someone new to care for after years of the same loving routine. Jinwoo's gentle strength hiding old wounds. His romantic heart that wanted grand gestures and fairy tale endings. His hope that maybe I could be the missing piece they hadn't known they needed. And threaded through all of it, a truth I couldn't deny. They meant it. Every word, every promise, every fierce declaration of protection and belonging. They wanted me. Not because I was useful or convenient or politically advantageous. Just because I was me. I broke the connection, gasping like I'd surfaced from deep water. "What did you see?" Hyunwoo asked quietly. "Everything." My voice cracked. "I saw everything. And? And I'm really bad at accepting good things because I keep waiting for them to be taken away. We're not going anywhere." Minho's hand tightened on my shoulder. "No matter how hard you push, we're staying. Even if Seo Minji escalates, even if keeping me puts Seo Yan in more danger, you being here makes Seo Yan safer, not less safe," Jinwoo said firmly. "You're the first person who successfully protected her from an attempt. The first person who saw her as a child worth saving instead of a political asset worth controlling." "I just did what anyone would do." "No, you did what almost no one would do, and that makes you extraordinary." Hyunwoo pulled back enough to look at me. Now stop arguing and accept that you matter to us. Please, it's exhausting watching you try to convince yourself you don't deserve care. I've had 7 years of practice. Then you'll need to practice something new, like letting people love you. The word love hit like electricity. Too big, too fast, too impossibly wonderful and terrifying. You don't love me. You barely know me. We know enough to know we're going to. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. And we're patient. We can wait for you to catch up. My phone buzzed, shattering the moment. I pulled it out with shaking hands. News alert. My face plastered across every major Korean news outlet with the headline, Mysterious Omega infiltrates royal family, hero or opportunist. They used my high school photo, I said faintly. The one where I looked like a drowned rat because it was picture day, and I'd walked through a storm to get there. You look fine, Minho lied kindly. I look like I'm contemplating murder. Well, you were 17 and in a poorly funded public school. Murder contemplation is age appropriate. I scrolled through the article, my stomach sinking with each paragraph. They'd included everything. My parents' death, my lack of pack, my employment history, even medical records that were supposed to be confidential. And the comments, oh God, the comments. Typical Omega trying to climb above his station. Obviously staged. No one risks their life for free. He looks unstable. They should investigate him, not celebrate him. Gold digger with delusions. Watch him try to seduce the Alpha Kings next. That last one made me laugh, sharp and bitter. Too late. Apparently I've already succeeded at the seduction part. Don't read those. Jinwoo tried to take my phone. Why not? They're just saying what everyone's thinking. They're saying what insecure people with nothing better to do think. Hyunwoo's voice carried steel. People who've never risked anything for anyone and can't imagine someone else would. Or they're right and I'm a disaster who's about to ruin your lives. Taeyang. Minho turned me to face him, his dark eyes serious. Listen carefully. We don't care what they think. We don't care about your past or your medical records or how you looked in high school. We care about who you are right now. And right now you're the person who saved our daughter and made us remember why we wanted a family in the first place. That's a lot of pressure. That's the truth. He kissed my forehead, soft and sweet. Now let's work on that press conference. Because tomorrow you're going to show everyone who you really are. And they're going to have to acknowledge it whether they like it or not. Captain Nam's face appeared on one of the screens Hyunwoo had activated. Your Majesty, the media team is ready for the briefing. Put them through. What followed was 3 hours of intensive coaching. How to sit, how to speak, how to handle hostile questions, how to stay calm when reporters tried to provoke emotional reactions. Remember, the media consultant said, her voice crisp and professional, you're not defending yourself. You're stating facts. Let the facts speak for themselves. And if they accuse me of staging the attack, you ask them to explain how a homeless Omega with no resources could coordinate with 3 Alpha Rogues, time a royal daughter's escape, and fake injuries severe enough to require medical intervention. Make them explain their own conspiracy theory. I like her, I told Hyunwoo. She's vicious. That's why we hired her. By the time the briefing ended, my head was spinning with information, and my throat was dry from practicing answers. Sleep, Jinwoo said, noting my exhaustion. You need rest before tomorrow. I'm not tired. You're dead on your feet. Minho steered me toward a bedroom that somehow managed to smell like all 3 of them. Sleep. We'll keep watch. You keep saying that like I'm in constant danger. You are in constant danger. That's kind of the whole situation. I wanted to argue, wanted to maintain independence, but the bed looked impossibly comfortable, and my body was staging a mutiny against my brain's insistence that sleeping meant vulnerability. Fine, but if assassins break in, I'm blaming you for insisting I rest instead of staying alert. Noted. Minho pulled back the covers. Now sleep. I climbed into bed still wearing borrowed clothes, and the last thing I saw before my eyes closed was 3 alphas settling into watchful positions around the room, protecting me, like I was worth protecting, like I mattered, and maybe, just maybe, I was starting to believe them. Sleep came fast, dragging me under like a riptide. But it didn't bring peace. I dreamed of fire and screaming, of Seo Yan's small hand in mine while smoke filled my lungs, of running through palace corridors that twisted into Guro district alleys, where shadows wore expensive suits and smiled with too many teeth. You can't save everyone, the shadows whispered. Eventually, you have to choose. Choose what? Who lives, who dies, who you love enough to sacrifice everything for. The dream shifted. I was standing in front of cameras, bright lights burning my retinas, while reporters threw questions like knives. Did you stage the attack? Are you manipulating the royal family? What makes an Omega like you think you belong with Alpha Kings? I opened my mouth to answer, and blood poured out instead of words. Someone was shaking me, gentle but insistent. Taeyang, wake up. It's just a dream. Jinwoo's voice cut through the nightmare, and I surfaced with a gasp, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. You were crying, he said softly, his hand on my shoulder, and your emotions were broadcasting so loudly I could feel them from downstairs. Broadcasting? I wiped at my face, finding it wet. I thought I couldn't do that. Strong emotions can leak through when you're not shielding properly, fear especially. His thumb brushed away a tear I'd missed. What were you dreaming about? Fire, blood, choices I don't know how to make. I sat up, my borrowed shirt sticking to my back with sweat. What time is it? 4 a.m. You've been asleep for about 3 hours. He settled on the bed's edge, close but not crowding. The press conference is at 9. We should let you rest more. But what? But something's happened. Hyunwoo needs you downstairs. Ice slid through my veins. What kind of something? The kind that changes everything. His expression was carefully neutral. Come on, you need to see this. I followed him downstairs that seemed endless, through the safe house that suddenly felt less safe and more like a very expensive trap. Hyunwoo and Minho stood in the living area, their attention fixed on a massive screen displaying a news broadcast. What's wrong? I asked. Watch. Hyunwoo gestured to the screen. The news anchor's face was grave. Breaking news from Seoul. SEO Minji, daughter of former royal advisor Seo Dae-hyun, has released a statement claiming that the Omega known as Min Taeyang is actually her half-brother, born from an affair between her father and a Lee family Omega who died in the suspicious circumstances 23 years ago. The world tilted sideways. She's claiming your family, Minho said unnecessarily, half-siblings through your mother. That's impossible. My mother was Park So-hee. Her parents were Lee Jia, who disappeared 30 years ago, Hyunwoo interrupted gently. We know, but Seo Minji is claiming that before your mother went into hiding, she had a relationship with Seo Dae-hyun, that you're the result of that relationship. She's lying. She has to be lying. Maybe. Jinwoo pulled up something on a tablet. But she's provided DNA evidence, partial matches that suggest genetic relationship, and she's demanding you be tested officially to confirm or deny. My stomach dropped. Why? Why would she claim I'm family if she's trying to destroy me? Because family has legal standing in succession disputes. Hyunwoo's winter eyes were grim. If you're Seo Dae-hyun's son, you potentially have a claim to the advisory position his family has held for generations. It complicates everything about our political situation. I don't want any political position. I just want to survive this. Unfortunately, wanting doesn't matter when it comes to bloodline politics. Minho moved closer, his presence warm and grounding. If she can prove you're her half-brother, she can argue that you're biased toward her family interests, that any advice you give us is compromised by blood loyalty. That's insane. I've never even met Seo Dae-hyun. Doesn't matter. The appearance of conflict is often more powerful than actual conflict. Hyunwoo pulled up another screen. But there's more. She's also claiming that your telepathic abilities were deliberately hidden by her father to prevent you from being used as a weapon by rival families. That he's been monitoring you your whole life, waiting for the right moment to activate you. Activate me? I'm not a sleeper agent. She's painting a narrative where you're a victim of her father's manipulation, Jinwoo explained. Abandoned Omega son, raised in poverty, turned into an unwitting tool for political gain. It makes you sympathetic while simultaneously destroying your credibility. She's good, I admitted grudgingly. Evil, but good. She's desperate. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened. This is a huge risk for her. If the DNA evidence doesn't hold up, she's committed fraud on a national level. But if it does, then I'm exactly what she says I am. Some kind of secret Licio hybrid with convenient telepathy and terrible timing. The room fell silent except for the news broadcast continuing in the background. Reporters were already speculating wildly about what this meant for royal succession, for PAC politics, for the future of supernatural governance in Korea. My phone erupted with notifications. Texts, calls, social media mentions flooding in faster than I could process. One text made my blood freeze. Unknown number. Now you understand. You were never just some random Omega. You were always part of the plan. Time to come home, little brother. She's texting me. I showed them the phone. Calling me little brother. Block it, Minho said immediately. Wait. I stared at the message, my telepathic senses tingling with something I couldn't name. Let me try something. I reached out with my mind, following the thread of intention behind the words. It was risky, possibly stupid, but I needed to know, and what I found made my blood run cold. Seo Minji believed every word she'd said. The DNA evidence wasn't fabricated. She genuinely thought we were related. But underneath that belief was something else. A memory, fractured and strange, of her father showing her a photograph, of a woman who looked like me, of plans laid years before I was born. Oh God, I broke the connection, stumbling backward. She's not lying, or at least she doesn't think she is. Seo Dae-hyun convinced her we're family. Is it true? Hyunwoo's voice was carefully neutral. I don't know. My memories of my mother are fractured. I was 7 when she died, but if she was involved with Seo Dae-hyun before she met my father, I couldn't finish that sentence, couldn't process what it meant. We'll do the DNA test, Minho decided. Settle this definitively. And if it proves she's right, if I really am Seo Dae-hyun's son, then we deal with it. Jinwoo's hand found mine. Together, like everything else. The screen changed. Live footage from outside the palace, where crowds were gathering. Some held signs supporting me. Others demanded my arrest. Still others called for Seo Minji to be investigated. This is going to get violent, I said quietly. People are angry and confused and looking for someone to blame. Which is why we're moving the press conference up, Hyunwoo said. 6 a.m. instead of 9. We get ahead of the chaos before it spirals further. That's 2 hours from now. I'm not ready. You're as ready as you'll ever be. Minho's dark eyes held mine. And we'll be right there with you. My phone buzzed again. Different number. This time I recognized it. Mirai from the convenience store. I don't care whose son you are. You're still the person who helped that little girl. Don't let them make you forget that. Something in my chest cracked. One person, one single person who saw past the politics to the actual choice I'd made. Okay, I heard myself say. Let's do this, but on one condition. What condition? Hyunwoo asked. I tell the whole truth, everything. The telepathy, the attack, the threats, what I felt in that alley. No carefully crafted statements, no political positioning, just honesty. That's risky. Everything about this is risky. At least this way, I'm being myself instead of playing a role. I looked between them. You said you wanted me to let you see all the parts I've hidden. Well, I'm about to show the entire country. Hope you're ready for that. All three of them smiled, and it was fierce and proud, and absolutely terrifying in its certainty. We've been ready since the moment you stepped into that alley, Hyunwoo said. The media team arrived within 30 minutes, turning the safe house into a makeshift studio with professional lighting and camera equipment. Makeup artists tried to make me look less like I'd been awake all night having emotional crises. Nervous? The media consultant asked, adjusting my collar. Terrified, but also weirdly calm. Is that normal? That's adrenaline preparing you to fight or flee. Try to channel it into focused energy. The cameras went live at exactly 6 a.m. Me, sitting in a chair that felt like a throne, with Hyunwoo, Minho, and Jinwoo standing behind me in a wall of protective alpha presence. Reporters hurled questions before I could even speak. Are you Seo Minji's brother? Did you stage the attack? Are you in a relationship with the Alpha Kings? I held up a hand and silence fell like snow. My name is Min Taeyang, I said, my voice steady despite the fear threatening to choke me. And I'm going to tell you a story. Not the one you've been hearing. Not the one powerful people want you to believe. The real story of an Omega who spent 7 years invisible until one night when he heard a child screaming and made a choice. I took a breath and began. I told them everything. The poverty, the invisibility, the moment I decided that saving Seoyeon was worth risking everything. The telepathy I hadn't known I possessed. The threats that came after. As for whether I'm Seo Minji's brother, look directly into the camera. I honestly don't know. My mother died when I was 7. She never mentioned Seo Daehyun, but I'm willing to take any DNA test required to prove the truth. And your relationship with the Alpha Kings? A reporter called out. I felt 3 presences at my back, solid and unwavering. They saved me, I said simply, in that alley and every moment since. Whether that becomes something more, time will tell. But right now, I'm just grateful to be alive and safe. The questions continued, but I answered each one with careful honesty. No deflection, no political maneuvering, just truth. We were 40 minutes into the conference when my phone buzzed with a text that made my heart stop. Unknown number. Very brave, little Omega. But bravery won't save you from what comes next. Check the East camera feed. You have 3 minutes. My blood turned to ice. Yun Woo, East camera, now. He pulled it up on his phone, and his expression went from concern to absolutely murderous. The screen showed the mountain road leading to the safe house, and coming up that road, moving with military precision, were vehicles. Lots of vehicles. We have company, Minho said grimly. Armed company. How did they find us? Jinwoo demanded. Doesn't matter. Hyunwoo was already moving, issuing rapid commands into his phone. We need to evacuate, now. I stood and the reporter's cameras caught every moment of panic crossing my face. End the broadcast, the media consultant hissed. No. I looked directly into the camera. Let them watch. Let everyone see what happens when you interfere with powerful people's plans. The sound of engines grew louder, closer. The front door exploded inward in a shower of wood and metal. Men in tactical gear poured through like water from a broken dam, weapons raised, faces hidden behind masks. And at their center, walking with the confidence of someone who'd already won, was a figure I recognized from the fractured memories I'd stolen. Seo Daehyun himself. Hello, son, he said, his voice carrying across the chaos. We have so much to discuss. Behind me, I felt 3 alphas shift into protective positions. In front of me, cameras still rolled, broadcasting everything to millions of viewers. And somewhere deep in my chest, something that had been sleeping my whole life finally woke up. My telepathy exploded outward like a shockwave, and every person in the room stumbled as I touched their minds simultaneously. You want the truth about who I am? I said, my voice carrying power I'd never known I possessed. Let me show you. I reached into Seo Daehyun's mind, and I saw everything. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. If that ending wrecked you, hit subscribe. The next chapter drops soon.